Chapter 328. After settling the matter with Takajin, even with Garashi's state of mind, he could not help but feel excited. Finally, the collection of chakra from 1 to 9 tails was complete. A full 5 years. Garashi sighed softly. If he pursued speed, he could have completed this plan a few years earlier. But he had always been very patient. In order to not be discovered, this little bit of time was completely worth it. After sighing, Garashi used earth release, earth diving technique to burrow deep into the ground. He opened up a small room thousands of meters underground and set up various enchantments around it. Then he carefully took out the chakra that he had collected. There seemed to be a strange attraction between the 9 chakra. After appearing in this small space, they were pulled towards one direction. Is it because these chakra have no consciousness and are driven by instinct to return to the origin? Garashi looked at this scene with a little surprise. But this saves me a lot of effort to merge them. Just like Azura and Indra reincarnated as chakra, the sage of the 6 paths drifted in the world as chakra. Chakra could have the consciousness and instinct of the main body. Under Shuishi's observation, the fusion of these tailed beasts' chakra was fine at the beginning, but later on, they began to conflict and repel each other, and there were even signs of instability. Seeing this, Garashi quickly separated the chakra that had been merged together. As expected, it's still missing the outer shell. Garashi shook his head slightly. He was not too surprised by this result. Other than the chakra from 1 to 9 tails, the Geto Mazo that was used to contain them was also very important. With his current strength, it would be easy for him to snatch the Geto Mazo from Nagato. However, he did not plan to do so. On one hand, he was afraid of the Geto Mazo. He was worried that there might be a secret door left behind by the 6 paths. Although it's just a groundless guess for that kind of old monster, it can even be said to be the final winner of the Shinobi War. He will never underestimate it. In the face of an existence that could threaten his safety, he had never been afraid to assume the worst of others. His kindness was only for those who posed no threat. On the other hand, if he really did get the Geto Golem, the chakra that he put into the golem would most likely become a mini version of the Jubi. After all, the Jubi was Kagaya Otsutsuki's vessel. If Kagaya's consciousness were to descend, he couldn't guarantee that he could keep the Jubi's sovereignty in front of such an existence. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem to directly destroy the Jubi. He also left a secret door in the chakra. Therefore, what he wanted to complete was a body that was different from the Jubi. The problem now is to find a shell that can suppress chakra and prevent it from going berserk. Garashi gently retracted the 9 groups of chakra. In our world, the only thing that can compete with the power of Otsutsuki is the dragon vein. 3 nights later, Garashi rearranged the previous preparations at the location of the dragon vein in Lulon. Under his guidance, the dragon vein chakra that exuded a golden brilliance wrapped around the tailed beast chakra. Just like the last time, the fusion of the tailed beast chakra was halfway through, and the fusion appeared unstable again. However, this time the fusion didn't explode in the unstable fusion. Instead, it was suppressed by the dragon vein chakra, and after having nowhere to vent, it was aggrieved and fused together. Yes, it can be done. Garashi's eyes flashed, and he suppressed his restless heart and continued to guide the dragon vein chakra. Finally, the tailed beast chakra seemed to have accepted their fate and no longer resisted, and all of them fused together. A moment later, a perfect body exuding a pale golden light appeared in front of Garashi. Garashi took a deep breath, pressed his right hand on the chest of the golden body, and absorbed the clone into his body. This feeling is really unprecedentedly strong. Garashi closed his eyes and felt his strength. After a while, he opened his eyes, and the 5 elements of water, fire, lightning, wind, and earth danced on the fingertips of his right hand. In this state, my attributes have been completed. No, it's far more than that. Garashi looked at his palms solemnly. Under the guidance of a certain force, the 5 elements were gradually fusing together. A powerful ability that surpassed the limits of the bloodline limit, or even the bloodline elimination limit, was born in his hands. As expected, there's still a huge gap between the bloodline elimination limit and the bloodline net. Garashi sighed. It wasn't that he understood the power of the 5 elements, but it was the instinct of this body, as if it was an innate talent. However, it was a pity that there were only 5 elements and no yin and yang. After all, tailed beasts were divided into yin and yang, and the chakra that he had collected naturally couldn't represent the entire tailed beast. But even so, Garashi was already satisfied. After all, he was just a fake version of Kyubi, and he was lucky enough to reach this level. Most importantly, after the transformation of Ryumyaku chakra, this power had nothing to do with Otsutsuki, and it belonged to him alone. My current strength may be comparable to Naruto and Sasuke, who were gifted by the Rikudo. Garashi secretly evaluated his current strength in his heart. It sounded powerful, but in fact, it was just a part of the power given by the dead Rikudo. Compared with Rikudo's heyday, he was still far behind. Compared with Otsutsuki Kagaya, who didn't have any children and didn't lose his power, he was even worse. And the Otsutsuki main family, who could make Otsutsuki Kagaya afraid, was even more beyond his imagination. Alas, I'm still too weak. With such a sigh, Garashi separated the golden body from his body again. In an instant, the extremely powerful power fell back to the bottom. It's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. After experiencing that kind of fascinating power, it's easy to get lost in falsehood. Fortunately, Garashi's mind was strong enough and he quickly calmed down. As long as I integrate with this body, I can easily beat the entire shinobi world. Even if Uchiha Madara is resurrected in his heyday with Rinnegan, he won't be an opponent in front of me. Garashi thought like this and then shook his head. Unfortunately, it doesn't make any sense. Even if I rule the whole world, when Otsutsuki comes, everything I have is just a flower in the mirror. Only strength is eternal. In Garashi's vision, he needs to let the entire shinobi world join the arms race. The experience of his previous life has already shown that war is the best incubator for the improvement of military technology. With the wisdom of the world, let the current shinobi world's ninjutsu level explode, so that he can stand on their shoulders and truly understand the mysteries of 5 elements, yin and yang, and even Kekkei Tensei. If Otsutsuki values life itself, then what he values is the wisdom developed from life itself. Of course, the premise of realizing his vision is to let the entire shinobi world give birth to more geniuses, and at the same time to make the shinobi world's environment better. Only when people have a more sense of belonging to this world, when disaster comes, in order to protect this beauty, they will burst out with greater potential. It sounds like it's possible to forcibly unify the shinobi world. But in fact, the human heart is the simplest and the most complicated thing. Those forces that are unified by him may be able to develop ninjutsu according to his arrangement on the surface, but in fact, it's impossible for them to do well. In Garashi's view, the best way should be to guide them to do it wholeheartedly, or even to exert 120% of their potential, instead of forcing them to do it. To do this, he has to spend more effort to guide people's hearts. Thinking of this, Garashi separated a part of his soul into the golden body. Then, the body shape and appearance of the golden body were constantly changing to a certain image in his mind. Looking at the eyes of the golden body gradually moving, Garashi chuckled. The task of stirring up this world will trouble you, Aizen Sasuke-san. Chapter 329. After separating a part of his soul, Garashi's strength will naturally decrease. However, with the current situation of the shinobi world, even if his strength is only 70% or 80%, he can't find anyone who can fight him. Nagato can't, Bordered Soil can't, and Black Zetsu can't. Of course, for the sake of caution, Garashi left the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on each of them. If anyone bullies him, he will immediately summon his clone. A super wood leaf jutsu who can transform, isn't he afraid of that? After leaving the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Garashi looked at the freshly made Aizen and pondered. My main body's strongest is Yin release and Yang release, and I will focus on these two in the future, but my strongest point in the outside world is Mokutan. As for the clone, my strongest point is the jutsu of the 5 elements. In the future, I can use the advantages of this body to study the jutsu of the 5 elements. After all, I only know how to use it, but I don't understand it. Thinking of this, a funny picture suddenly appeared in Garashi's mind. The enemy spent a lot of effort to break his genjutsu and stood proudly in front of his clone, only to be told that his strongest point is actually the jutsu of the 5 elements. He has to say that it will definitely be a very interesting picture. Rock Crypsis Village. He suppressed you and the Nanabai Jinchuriki in an instant? In the Tsuchikige's office, Anoki looked at Han and asked. Han nodded again and again, super powerful. It's worthy of Mokutan. Anoki exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. For him who experienced the Warring States period, this result was not unexpected, but it still made him feel confused. This kind of opponent is just like Uchiha Madara in the past. Seeing Anoki's expression, Han touched his head and said, Actually, I don't think we need to worry about his strength growing too fast. Anoki looked at him in surprise. What did you say? No matter how troubled we are, there's no way we can deal with Qingshui Shushi. Rather than saying that we can deal with him, it's better to say that we don't even have the ability to resist. Anoki's mouth twitched vaguely. Then what do you mean? If Shimizu Garashi really had the ambition to rule the world, it wouldn't be difficult for him to do it with his ability. However, not only did he not do that, but he also didn't target us, his enemies in the past. It can be seen that he is a person who truly practices the concept of peace. If it's him, maybe he can really do it. Anoki was at a loss. How did Han become like this after going out for a while? Just because the other party didn't do anything to you? Peace built on individual strength is illusory, just like the era I once lived in. Anoki recalled and said, when Hashirama dies, the so-called peace and order will immediately become a thing of the past. It's different. Han shook his head. Compared with the first Naruto, Shimizu Garashi's biggest advantage is that he is young. When the first Naruto pacified the world, he was already 30 or 40 years old, but Shimizu Garashi is only 15 years old now. Moreover, the first Naruto died too early. Peace is just a simple concept in people's hearts. But Shimizu Garashi, if he can promote peace in this world for 50, 80 or even 100 years, then peace will become the iron rule of this world. Yes. Anoki suddenly understood and his eyes were complicated. Is it really possible to achieve peace? Kusanagi country. In a remote village, more than a dozen wandering ninjas were looking back and forth for places in the village where people might hide. Did you find that woman? I didn't see her. She can hide well. But she can't run far with a burden. She must be nearby. Continue to search. Hearing the noise from the outside world, the red-haired woman hiding under the bed and holding a baby became very determined. Absolutely can't let Karen experience my fate again. But at this moment, the hand covering the baby's mouth trembled. Obviously the baby was crying. Karen, be good, bear with it. Suddenly, the sound of fireworks and firecrackers exploding sounded outside. Fireworks? The woman was a little puzzled, and then her face suddenly changed because the baby in her arms seemed to be frightened and cried even louder. She almost couldn't hold it anymore. Finally, the sound of a baby crying sounded in the village. The woman in the dark comforted and shook the baby gently, and only then did the baby fall asleep again. When the woman held her breath and listened attentively to the outside world, she found that she couldn't hear anything. Just as she was hesitating anxiously, the bed was suddenly overturned, and this violent movement made the baby cry again. But this time, the woman had no time to comfort Karen. There were 5 fierce-looking ninjas standing in the room, and 7 or 8 people standing outside because the room was crowded. Kanna, you've made us look for you so hard. The leader of the ninjas laughed loudly. All of you get out of my way. Kanna picked up the kunai at her feet and trembled as she pointed at them and shouted. Are you planning to kill us with that toy? It's really scary. The leader of the ninjas laughed and shot out a shuriken, and the kunai in Kanna's hand flew away. Seeing this, the rest of the ninjas laughed. Kanna bit her lower lip and said, let me give Karen to someone else to raise and I'll leave with you. No need to trouble yourself. The leader of the ninjas laughed, just let us raise her. Let you raise Karen into a humanoid blood-increasing pill? Kanna sneered. Don't say that. You and your daughter are much more useful than blood-increasing pills. Hearing the leader of the ninjas say this, everyone laughed again. You bunch of bastards. Kanna clenched her fists and glanced at the crowd with hatred. Then she looked at a man wearing glasses outside the door in disbelief and shouted, Yi Xing, why are you here? The leader of the ninjas waved his hand behind him. Yi Xing, come and meet her. Looking at the man with glasses who walked in, Kanna still couldn't believe it. Why are you with them? Of course it's because I'm the boss man. Yi Xing pushed his glasses and said helplessly, if the boss wasn't worried that the blood you nourished in despair wasn't sweet enough, do you think I'd be willing to be with a red-haired monster like you? Kanna was so angry that her face turned red. But no matter what, Karen is your daughter. Yes. Yi Xing said with a smile. So when I found out that she inherited your constitution, didn't I quickly call the boss over to raise her? How about it? I should be considered an excellent father, right? Chapter 330. The rest of the ninjas jeered. Our boss is very kind, right? He even took into consideration the feelings of a pet like you. Rather than a pet, it's better to call her a domestic animal. You bastards, restrain yourselves. At least take care of Brother Yoshitsun's feelings. While Kanna was embarrassed, she couldn't help but ask, so you're not going to continue hiding it now? There's no need for that, we already have a better target. The leader of the ninjas smiled and looked at Karen in her arms. No, absolutely not. Kanna hugged Karen tightly. That's not up to you. The leader of the ninjas smiled and said, of course I'm a very kind person as long as you have 20, No, 15, I'll give your daughter freedom. Kanna was so angry that she trembled. You. The leader of the ninjas didn't care about her and just patted Yoshitsun's shoulder. I'll leave the future to you. Yoshitsun held his waist and sighed. Sigh, boss, you have to get me more tonics in the future. The rest of the ninjas laughed again. Brother Yoshitsun, can you do it? If you can't, we can do it for you. Just as they were talking dirty, a soul pressure descended as if time and space had stopped. Everyone was conscious, but there was no way to control their bodies. The group of wandering ninjas stared, not understanding what was going on. Kanna looked at this scene in confusion. Why did this group of scum suddenly stop moving? One by one they froze in the pose of laughing at the sky. Performance art? At this time light footsteps were heard. In Kanna's surprised gaze, a gentle uncle with black-rimmed glasses appeared in front of her. Do you want to gain power? Kanna looked at him in a daze, and it took her a while to come back to her senses. They became like this because of you? The man in front of her didn't answer this question, but repeated it with a smile. Do you want to gain power? On one hand, she felt that he didn't look like a bad person, and on the other hand, she had the thought that things couldn't get worse, so Kanna nodded vigorously in agreement. Sir, please lend me your power. Then as you wish. The man in front of her stretched out his index finger and tapped her forehead lightly. Then, a warm current flowed through her body. Even her dried-up body became moist because of this warm current. Is this power? Kanna muttered to herself, then realized that the group of scum had regained their vitality. Strange, why does it feel like time has stopped for a few seconds? Tisk. So you guys also have this kind of illusion? Sir, you? Hearing Kanna's voice, a group of wandering ninjas looked at her in confusion. What Sama? Seeing them turn a blind eye to the Lord standing in front of her, Kanna couldn't help but ask again, can't you see the Lord standing in front of me? A group of wandering ninjas looked at each other and then laughed out loud. Woman, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't tell me you're trying to make up a ghost to scare us away. Ah, Kanna, you really have a rich imagination. So powerful, is this the power of this Lord? While Kanna was shocked, she was also full of confidence in the borrowed power. Alright, you should be done fooling around. Come back with us. Seeing the leader of the ninjas grabbing towards her, Kanna subconsciously raised her hand to stop him. The moment she raised her hand, a powerful chakra burst out of her palm, condensed into a chain, and directly penetrated the chest of the leader of the group of wandering ninjas. No, this is impossible. The leader of the ninjas looked down at his chest, and then fell straight to the ground. Boss. Several ninjas rushed to their boss and touched his nose. Boss, is he dead? Gulp. Hearing this answer, everyone present looked at Kanna with horrified eyes. This woman, when did she become so strong? Is this how to use it? Kanna muttered to herself and raised her hand to push it. A few more chains formed and killed all the ninjas who were pouncing on the leader. This time, everyone was frightened and fled for their lives. For this group of scum who wanted to turn her daughter into a livestock, Kanna naturally wouldn't let them go. She became more proficient in controlling the chakra chain and pushed it forward. The chain flexibly passed through everyone's chest. Ah! Screams echoed one after another. I Ching screamed with them, and after a while he realized that he seemed to be fine. Touching his chest, he looked at Kanna, moved. Kanna, you really like... Before he could finish, he was sent flying by Kanna's chain. I just want to kill you last. Hearing this murderous voice, I Ching was anxious and didn't care about the pain in his chest. No matter what, I am Karen's father. Do you want the child to be fatherless? Kanna's chain stopped as if she was persuaded. I Ching just breathed a sigh of relief and was about to speak when he heard Kanna say, It's better not to have a scumbag father like you. Wait. The chain pierced through his chest. I Ching looked at her in disbelief and whispered, Why? The last body fell to the ground and there was no sound except for the crying of the baby. Kanna took a deep breath and looked gratefully at the man who was still standing quietly. Sir, thank you for helping me take revenge. Seeing Kanna's hesitant look, Aizen chuckled softly. Are you worried that I will treat you like they did to you? Kanna shook her head vigorously. I am willing to do anything for you. But Karen, the reason I saved you is naturally because you have value to be used by me. I don't deny that. Aizen smiled. But unlike those fools, I don't want to hurt you. I want to train you into a force that I can rely on. But I am just an ordinary person who knows nothing. Kanna hesitated. An ordinary person? Aizen smiled. Oh, whose power do you think killed those people? Kanna was puzzled. Wasn't it your power? No, it was your power. Aizen smiled. I just guided it. Kana lowered her head in shock and looked at her hands. My power? How about it? Do you want to be my arm? Looking at the other's gentle eyes, Kana only felt that a ray of sunlight shone into her frozen heart. Aside from being treated as a blood bag, this was the first time in her life that she felt valued and recognized. Yes, I will be your most convenient tool. Aizen Sosuke. Aizen chuckled. From now on, carry this name. Chapter 331. Night. Aizen led Kana through the forest as if they were on an outing. Kana looked at Aizen's back with admiration. Ever since the grass country, she had finally witnessed Aizen's strength. They walked like this but no one could see them or hear them. Fortunately, they didn't have bad intentions, otherwise no matter what they did, they wouldn't have been discovered. While Kana was sighing, Aizen was thinking to himself. Although I want to train them, my understanding of the Uzumaki clan is limited to sealing techniques. If I really want to train them, it would be better to find a few specialized teachers for them. Well, he definitely didn't want to be lazy. By the way, use their identity to find a few subordinates for me. He valued Kana and her mother not only because of their potential, but also because of their identity as orphans of the Uzumaki clan. Amidst the silence, Kana noticed that Aizen had suddenly stopped. She raised her head and looked ahead. What entered her eyes was a dilapidated ancestral hall. Where is this? Although she was puzzled, Kana didn't ask. Finally, we're here. Aizen chuckled. Kana, please wait for me outside. Yes. Kana naturally didn't refuse and turned around to observe the surroundings. When they entered the ancestral hall, everything was the same except for the mask he took from the wall. There are 26 masks left. I don't know how many of them can recover their consciousness under my call. The last time he came to the Uzumaki clan's ancestral hall, he had this idea, but at that time his strength and timing weren't right, so he delayed until now. Aizen raised his right hand, and the 26 masks floated in the air and circled around him. Behind the masks there were Grim Reapers. Release! Aizen shouted, and a faint green fluorescence appeared on the surface of the masks. What he was doing now was somewhat similar to the last time. But this time he wasn't releasing the souls swallowed by the masks, he was releasing them. The masks seemed to be aware of the crisis, and the death god's shadow behind them roared, but they couldn't recover by themselves. They could only howl unwillingly under Aizen's control. Kana couldn't help but tremble when she heard the strange howls coming from the ancestral hall. What is Aizen-sama doing? Although she was afraid, she resisted the urge to turn around. Finally, peace was restored in the ancestral hall. Not bad. 4 of the masks still have some souls. Aizen nodded. 22 masks were completely shattered, and the Grim Reaper within the masks had also lost its spirituality. As for the other 4 Death God masks, they merged with the Death God's shadow behind them. The real mask was worn on the illusory face of the Grim Reaper, as if reality and illusion were intertwined. After a long time, a sigh that seemed to come from ancient times came from the mouth of the Grim Reaper on the left. Where is this? The voice was very hoarse, as if the owner of this voice had forgotten how to speak. The voice seemed to trigger a chain reaction. The other 3 gods of death slowly opened their eyes too. Under their masks, there were no pupils in their eyes. Instead, they were gray whirlpools that were constantly rotating. It was a rather frightening sight. However, Aizen wasn't intimidated by them. Welcome back, members of the Uzumaki clan. Uzumaki clan. These 4 words seemed to have turned on some kind of switch. The 4 people in a sluggish state suddenly woke up. Even the gray vortex under the mask became a lot more lively. My name seems to be Vortex Dark Knight. Vortex of the Night? The legendary predecessor who created the corpse demon seal? You are? My name is Uzumaki Shinichi, haha, I'm just an ordinary person. Uzumaki Shinichi? Isn't that the predecessor who sacrificed himself to the Grim Reaper in order to protect his people? Huh. I'm also a predecessor? After some conversation, the 4 people exchanged their identities. Uzumaki Shigeru, the youngest of the 4. Uzumaki Chiyuki, the only female among the 4. She had died more than 100 years ago. Uzumaki Shinichi had been dead for more than 200 years according to Masaaki. Uzumaki Shigeru had died more than 600 years ago. So, how long has brother Shigeru been dead? Shinichi-senpai, isn't it a bit inappropriate to call me brother? How can I call you that? There are more than 10 generations between us. I can't call you great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, right? That's right, I was only 18 when I died. I don't want to be your grandmother for no reason. Chiyuki-senpai, your voice doesn't sound like 18. Ahem, Don't make a fool of yourself in front of outsiders. Shigeru interrupted their conversation and looked at the man standing quietly in front of them. Did you resurrect us? The three of them respected the creator of the corpse ghost sealing technique. They looked at Aizen and said, "Haha, you're right. It's obvious." Aizen chuckled. Why bother? We don't belong to this world anymore. Shigeru sighed. He wasn't grateful to the other party for waking them up. On the one hand, the dead shouldn't interfere with the living world. On the other hand, they sacrificed themselves to the Shinigami in order to increase the strength of the Uzumaki clan to resist the foreign enemies. Now that they were resurrected, wouldn't it weaken the Uzumaki clan's strength? Is that so? That's a pity. Aizen shook his head. I thought that since you sacrificed your life for the Uzumaki clan, even after death, you would be willing to contribute to the revival of the Uzumaki clan. Revival? Shigeru's eyes lit up. What do you mean? Simply put, the Uzumaki clan has been exterminated. Aizen smiled and pushed up his glasses. Speaking of which, it's been many years. Hearing this, the four became excited. No, that's impossible. You must be lying to us, right? I won't believe it. In their fury, the four of them wantonly unleashed their soul strength. As death gods who had been able to retain a trace of consciousness throughout the long years, their souls were naturally very powerful. When the four of them unleashed their soul pressure together, it was as if they had materialized, causing the entire ancestral hall to tremble. Aizen just released his Ryatsu. Although it was only a split soul that had taken over this body, Shushi, who had received a gift from the priestess and had an extremely powerful soul, was able to suppress them with just a part of his soul. Of course, this was also because the four of them didn't have a physical body. Their soul power was like rootless duckweed. In just an instant, the souls of the four people were intimidated. They were like four small streams that merged into a large river, unable to raise any waves. Chapter 332. Seeing how easily the other party suppressed them, the few of them were shocked. So powerful, who is this guy? A human actually managed to surpass us death gods in terms of soul power? It's terrifying, his soul is too strong. I feel that this is not his full strength. They were clearly in soul form, but when facing the other party, they felt like they couldn't breathe. It was like when they were children playing in the forest and suddenly meeting a tiger or leopard. You should be able to calm down now, right? While speaking, Aizen couldn't help but sigh. The Shinigami transformation had a serious effect on one's emotions. Otherwise, these people who were famous in the history of the Uzumaki clan wouldn't have lost their composure after hearing the news. Please stop, we have calmed down. At first, they had some arrogance in front of the younger generation. But now they only had respect in their hearts. For people who came from the era of chaos, strength was more convincing. That's great. Aizen retracted his Ryatsu, and they felt like fish in water. After calming down, Yaoi asked again. Excuse me, you just said that the Uzumaki clan was destroyed. It's true. Aizen concluded. Because of the power of the seal, the Uzumaki clan was destroyed by more than a dozen countries many years ago. The few of them were in low spirits, but with the foreshadowing from before, they didn't act too extreme. How is this possible? Meisei muttered to himself and shouted excitedly. What about Woodleaf? Woodleaf didn't help? You know Woodleaf? Aizen looked at him with surprise. Of course, I signed a friendship contract with Hashirama. By the way, do you know Hashirama? Of course I know. Aizen casually explained. When this incident happened, Konoha was also troubled by war. War? Meisei was confused. What era is it now? Has it been 100 years? Based on what you said about the establishment of Konoha, it has only been 51 years since then. Please refer to Chapter 2 for the timeline. 51 years? Masahiro was stunned. Yes, Hashirama should be dead. If he's still alive, he definitely won't let the war happen. Although they felt uncomfortable, the other three were still puzzled when they heard Jinghui's words. As long as that person is alive, the war will not happen? How is this possible? Meisei shook his head. You don't understand. Hashirama is strong enough to calm the world. The other three were all shocked. Although they were also experts of their respective eras, they had never heard of a person who could suppress a chaotic world by himself. He's right. Aizen nodded slightly. Hashirama was indeed a powerful man. It's a pity that he died a few years after the establishment of Konoha. How is that possible? Meisei's eyes widened. How could Hashirama die at such a young age? He fought with Uchiha Madara. Although he killed Madara, he was seriously injured and died a few years later. While the other three were still in awe of the expert who had single-handedly pacified the chaotic world, they suddenly heard that this person had died in a decisive battle. Their entire being felt unwell. What era could give birth to two such strong people at the same time? Hashirama and Madara had a fight? Aren't they best friends? Meisei was confused. Moreover, they fought before. Hashirama should be stronger. There's no reason for him to die. Was it because of his heart injury? Seeing that they were getting further and further away from the topic, Aizen coughed twice. In short, the Uzumaki clan was destroyed many years ago, but the bloodline of the clan didn't disappear completely. The four were shocked. Yes, didn't Aizen talk about reviving the Uzumaki clan? Seeing the four pairs of black eyes looking at him, Aizen chuckled. You might as well use your perception to see what's outside. Only then did the four of them realize that the dilapidated ancestral hall they were in seemed to be enveloped by a layer of barrier. Releasing their senses, they quickly discovered a red-haired woman standing outside, holding a baby who also had red hair, but whose hair was rather sparse. Red hair, this iconic characteristic immediately scratched their itch. Who is she? There's no doubt that she's an Uzumaki. Hearing this, the four were overjoyed. Great. I didn't expect to see a clansman. Chishua looked at Aizen with wide eyes. So, you're the father of that child? Aizen sighed. Don't think too much. I just saved her from the demon's den. Demon's den? Look at her body carefully. We should be able to find some problems. Puzzled, they extended their senses and found countless bite marks on the parts of the woman's body that were exposed outside her clothes, her palms and neck. What the hell is going on? Even if they didn't have a physical body, the four were so angry that their souls were trembling. Without the protection of their clan, what will happen to the Uzumaki who are born with various special abilities? Aizen's words broke their psychological defense. Humans like them are lucky enough to become medical ninja beasts. Because of the greed of outsiders, it's been difficult to find the Uzumaki in this world. You know, there were many Uzumaki who escaped when their clan was destroyed. Hearing this, the four who were easily affected went crazy again. Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. I'll kill those bastards. Those who dared to humiliate them, I won't let them go. This time, Aizen didn't stop them. He just stood there quietly and waited for them to vent. After a long time, the four calmed down. Sir, what do you need us to do? Obviously, their attitude had changed again. You don't have to worry. I just want you to help me take care of them. Aizen smiled and pointed outside the ancestral hall. Just that? The four couldn't believe it. Such conditions were too good. Moreover, they would do it even if Aizen didn't tell them. Of course. What else do you think is worth me coveting? Aizen smiled. He wasn't lying. For him, taking care of Kanna and her mother was enough. In the future, if he really had a mission for the mother and daughter to do, wouldn't these old fellows follow them eagerly? Moreover, he would have more subordinates in the future. For the sake of Kanna and her mother's status, these old guys would take the initiative to ask him to use them. Haha, of course we're willing. Yaya said awkwardly. After all, he was the one who said that they didn't belong to this world and didn't want to interfere with it. But when it came to the Uzumaki, he immediately agreed. The path of the Uzumaki and my path don't conflict. Aizen continued. My dream is to change the order of this world. Follow me and I will lead you to the Uzumaki's revenge and revival. Chapter 333. After making an agreement, Aizen looked at the four and asked, Will you live in these masks from now on? The four looked at each other and nodded. That's the only way. Ordinary people's bodies can't carry our souls. Aizen nodded. One of the three conditions for Edo Tensei was to extract a certain amount of the deceased's body. The four of them didn't even have a body, let alone ashes. Although they could use their souls to fight for a short time, it wasn't a long-term plan. When the time is right, I will find you a suitable body. Aizen said softly as he looked up at the moon hanging in the night sky. Although the four didn't understand what he was thinking, they didn't say anything. After making a promise, Aizen returned their souls to the masks. Then he unsealed some fake masks and hung them on the wall. He made these masks on the way here. Although they didn't contain the power of a Shinigami, they were enough to confuse people who didn't know about them. Outside the ancestral hall, Kanna was shivering in the cold night wind. Suddenly, the sound of light footsteps came from behind her, causing her to happily turn her head back. Aizen-sama. Thank you for waiting here. It's no trouble. Kanna shook her head and looked at the masks in Aizen's hand. Did Aizen enter the ancestral hall for these four masks? She had her doubts but she didn't ask. However, Aizen smiled gently. Are you looking at these masks? I specially got this for you and Karen. Kana pointed at herself in disbelief. Especially for us? Of course. Aizen smiled. Step back. Kana took a few steps back. Aizen waved the masks in his hand. Come out and meet her. Come out? Who wants to come out? Kana was puzzled. Suddenly, 4 ghosts floated out of the masks. Their eye sockets were empty and ghostly flames were flickering. They looked terrifying. Although she was frightened by the ghosts, Kana still mustered up the courage to ask Aizen. Aizen-sama, who are they? They are the undead of the Uzumaki clan. Aizen introduced. They are your ancestors and the teachers I found for you. Ancestor? Teacher? Kana repeated, then looked at the undead. Kana was not interested in this so-called ancestor. When she experienced hardship and was bullied, she did not see her ancestor. When she encountered danger and fell into a desperate situation, she still did not see her ancestor. Now that he had appeared, what was the use? She only knew that the person who saved her and Karen was Lord Aizen. The one who gave them a stable life and found them a teacher was Lord Aizen. As for these ancestors, although she didn't hate them, she couldn't get close to them either. However, she could see that Lord Aizen valued these ancestors, so she didn't show too much resistance. Instead, she was just shy and reserved. Greetings, ancestors. Ha ha ha, you too. Although they could see Kana's estrangement, the 4 of them didn't care. To be able to sacrifice themselves as Shinigami, the 4 of them were naturally very dedicated. Now that they saw Kana and Karen, it was like seeing the future of the Uzumaki clan. They were overjoyed, so how could they blame her? Aizen handed the 4 masks to Kana. These masks are for your safekeeping. Kana took the masks carefully. Yes. After this small episode, Aizen set off for the Land of Iron. On one hand, he was interested in the training methods of the samurai. On the other hand, he wanted to inadvertently make some noise to attract the attention of the Akatsuki. On the way, he didn't stop for too long. Although he planned to continue to adopt the geniuses that appeared in the original plot, such as Haku, Kimimaro, Yugo, and the others, he still needed to see the right time. Just like Kana, the reason why he appeared at the right time was because Wu Wei passed the information about the Land of Grass. Of course, Wu Wei didn't know that his target was Kana, because he gave the order to pay attention to the red-haired people in the Land of Grass. In fact, there were many red-haired people in the Land of Grass. A few days later, Aizen and his group arrived at the capital of the Land of Iron. It's so prosperous. Walking on the street, Kana looked at everything around her in surprise. There were people selling things, children chasing each other, and people laughing and chatting. It was completely different from what she saw in the Land of Grass. Yes, it's a rare pure land. Aizen nodded slightly. Because of the powerful samurai group in the Land of Iron and the fact that it was a neutral territory, the Land of Iron was rarely disturbed by the outside world. Even the waves of the previous shinobi wars didn't affect the Land of Iron. It's good to have a place without fighting. Kana sighed. No fighting? How is that possible? Aizen smiled and shook his head. These samurai are martial artists, fighting is the norm. But this isn't. Because the Land of Iron is a place for the samurai to exhaust their energy and resolve disputes, and it's the place I plan to go next. While they were talking, the 4 masks in Kana's backpack were chatting with each other. Samurai's duel? Does he know swordsmanship? No way. His genjutsu is ridiculously strong. In terms of genjutsu, he may be stronger than Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara? The one who can control the Kyuubi with genjutsu? Can't Aizen-sama also control the Kyuubi? It's not the same. Uchiha Madara can do that mainly because of his Sharingan. Along the way, they finally witnessed the magic of the other party. It was like a passive ability. It was a powerful illusion that could make people lose their minds without any warning. Even these old antiques were shocked. In their time, they had never seen such a powerful genjutsu. Because of this, they were more convinced of the mysterious Aizen-sama's abilities. In the other direction of the capital, it wasn't as bustling as the market, but it was more lively. Even if they were a few hundred meters away, they could hear the enthusiastic cheers coming from the duel field. It was still a cold winter day, but the fiery passion seemed to dispel the cold. Is this the place where Aizen-sama is going to train? Kana wasn't worried. In her opinion, there was no one more powerful than Aizen-sama. Let's go in. Aizen smiled and pressed down on the sword he had bought and hung at his waist. He then led Chanel to the duel arena. Chapter 334. Whoa. It's a fierce duel. On the high platform of the duel arena, the host shouted at the top of his lungs, The 100 Winds Warrior's Iato slash is indeed super sharp, but the person he is facing is the sword hero Mizuki, who is known as Broken River. Can he really succeed? Oh no, Hayakum's blade was broken and he fell to the ground. It seems the result of this duel is obvious. Let's cheer for sword hero Mizuki. Under his call, the entire arena erupted into cheers and shouts. Oh, oh. As expected of the sword hero, his swordsmanship is amazing. In the room specially prepared for the contestants, Aizen shook his head. Sword hero? It's quite a strange name in the ninja world. In this noisy environment, Kana raised her voice and asked, Aizen-sama, which match are you in? Aizen looked at the number in his hand and said, I'm in the 17th match. Oh, there are only 2 matches left. I will definitely record your heroic bearing, Kana said while waving the small camera in her hand. Thank you. Aizen laughed softly. The old antiques in the masks floated out and surrounded the camera, clicking their tongues in wonder. There was no such thing in our era. This is the power called technology? It's amazing. While they were talking, there was a loud cheer outside and someone called Aizen's number. These samurai didn't have much chakra, and their swordsmanship was mostly about speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness, so it didn't take long for it to be Aizen's turn. I'm going up, Aizen said and calmly walked to the stage. Opposite him was a samurai with 2 swords. At this time, the host's excited voice came from the stage again. This time, it's wandering samurai Aizen against Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf's swordsmanship is as fast as lightning, and although Aizen is a newcomer, he must be quite strong since he can wander in the chaotic ninja world. Now let's give the time to the 2 samurai. You talk too much nonsense. Lone Wolf looked at the high platform unhappily and said coldly, Newbie, you go first. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Thank you. Aizen smiled and pulled out his sword from his waist. Although he was not very proficient in sword arts was a combination of strength, speed, reaction, and sword skills. With his physical attributes and eyesight in addition to his superior physical skills, he could be considered a sword arts master. Be careful, I'm about to make my move. With a flash of sword light, Lone Wolf was instantly sent flying. The cheers from the audience were stagnant. Clearly, they had not recovered from this sudden turn of events. I'm not dead? Lone Wolf got up from the ground. Ignoring the pain in his chest, he touched his body in fear and muttered to himself, What happened just now? That's right, it's sword pressure. His sword stopped in front of me, and just the wind pressure from the blade was enough to send me flying. Thinking of this, Lone Wolf looked at Aizen in shock. Where did this guy come from? Even the new admiral of the Sanfune isn't as strong as him. Not bad. Aizen commented calmly in his heart. From his point of view, this Lone Wolf was almost at the level of a chunin who specialized in body techniques. Unfortunately, the difference between them was too great. At this time, the audience finally recovered from the shock and erupted into cheers that almost overturned the arena. Did I see it wrong? Lone Wolf was defeated in one move. Could it be that Lone Wolf fixed the match? Go and show me a fake match where you can make a big hole in the ground even if you lie back. Too powerful. This Aizen-sama must be a great swordsman. Especially the host, he was so excited that his voice was hoarse. There is no doubt that we have another strong fighter. Shout his name with me. Aizen Sosuke. However, Aizen did not go down, he continued to stay on the stage. Seeing this, the host was even more excited. Aizen stayed on the stage. What does this mean? Is he going to defend the stage? Although he is very strong, this is the land of iron where samurai grew up. Can you watch him be so arrogant? The audience was either excited or heckling. No. Then let's start. Let this samurai know the power of the land of iron. After half a day, the originally lively arena was completely silent. No matter who the opponent was, they couldn't make a second move in front of Aizen. Even the swordsmen were the same. Even if it was a battle of attrition, Aizen's stamina seemed endless. He was too strong. He was simply overwhelmingly strong. For Aizen it was really easy. The land of iron was very strong, but it was still far from the 5 great countries. Being able to reach the level of a jonin was already the highest level in the land of iron. As for ordinary jonins, he could already kill them a few years ago. Although he was not familiar with swordsmanship, his body was stronger than his real body. It was normal for him to achieve this result. 3 days later, in the Admiral's mansion. Mifune-sama, how was the result of your operation? A tall samurai in front of Mifune asked. Of course, all of them were eliminated. Mifune took off his helmet and said happily. That's good. The tall samurai nodded. Many people were dissatisfied with you being the admiral. With this result, they should be able to shut up. Mifune shook his head and smiled. Musashi, I didn't eliminate the bandits for my own position. I know you don't have such thoughts. Musashi smiled. By the way, Musashi, did anything big happen in the capital while I was away? Mifune asked. If you want to talk about big things, maybe. Don't get excited, it's not a bad thing. Musashi explained. A few days ago, a wandering samurai called Aizen came and made a name for himself in the duel arena. Defeating 100 people in a row, that's not easy. Mifune was surprised. It's easy. Musashi shook his head. He defeated his opponent with one sword strike. Almost all the masters in the capital went to challenge him, but no one was his opponent. One sword strike. Mifune's eyes lit up. You also went to challenge him? Musashi was a little embarrassed. I barely held on until he used his third strike. That's already very powerful. Mifune comforted his friend. Didn't you say that most people can't even take one strike from him? You don't have to comfort me. There's nothing to be sad about losing to such a strong person. However, watching a wandering samurai strut around in a samurai country is really unacceptable. Musashi looked at Mifune with bright eyes. Mifune, only you can defeat him. In his opinion, Mifune could defeat Aizen. If it were the 5 major countries, Mifune would be like their Kage. Compared to ordinary samurai like them, Mifune's strength was far superior. You don't have to provoke me. Mifune smiled and shook his head. He then clenched the hilt of his sword. I also want to see such a strong person. Chapter 335. The next day, the duel. Looking at the fierce battle in the arena, the audience on the spectator stands were discussing excitedly. Amazing, this guy is a powerful swordsman. What's this? Yesterday there was a 2 swordsman. What swordsman, 2 swordsmen? I don't understand. Stupid, if you can take 1 strike from Aizen, you're a swordsman. If you can take 2 strikes, you're a 2 swordsman. Huh. How can it be divided like that? In the beginning, there were indeed many people who were unconvinced and indignant. However, after a few days they were more or less numb from the blows. Those ninjas always looked down on samurai, now they're such a powerful samurai, isn't it a good thing? Thinking of this, they didn't feel ashamed of losing to him, but proud of it. That's why the scene in front of them appeared. Hearing his friend's explanation and seeing the proud expressions of the defeated warriors, Mifune felt that this world was a little strange. Where's your pride as a samurai? However, after seeing Aizen's strength, he began to understand what they were thinking. He's really strong. Mifune's eyes were full of fighting spirit. He recalled the time when he was defeated by Hanzo the Salamander. The next challenger, Mifune? At this point, the host's excited voice suddenly stopped, as if he had seen something incredible. He let out a strange cry, Admiral, Admiral Mifune? Hearing the host's exclamation, the audience was excited again. What? The Admiral is also here? Can Admiral Mifune win? I don't know, although Admiral Mifune is the most powerful samurai in the Land of Iron, his opponent is also very strong. It's so exciting, these two are standing at the top of the samurai world. Hearing his name, Mifune took a deep breath and walked step by step with a solemn face. As a samurai, 48 years old should be his prime. Although his experience in kendo still have room to grow, his physical strength is already declining. I'm lucky to meet such a strong opponent at this time. Mifune sighed and stood in front of Aizen. Admiral Mifune, I have been waiting for you for a long time. Aizen smiled. Please show me the pinnacle of samurai. Mifune was a little surprised. Aren't you one? I am ashamed to say this, but I only relied on my strength, speed, vision, and experience to defeat them. Aizen sighed. In terms of skill alone, I cannot compare to you. Sir Aizen, you're exaggerating. Mifune had a good impression of the other party's willingness to admit that he had a physical advantage. Swordsmanship is a combination of mind, body, and technique. Pure technique is only a part of swordsmanship. In short, please let me experience it in battle. Then please excuse my rudeness. Aedo, a waning moon. Mifune poured all of his energy into his attack. With a flash of his blade, a crescent moon cut through the air towards Aizen. It's actually Chopper. Aizen was surprised. No wonder people say that ordinary ninjas don't even have the time to perform hand seals in front of a jutsu master. In terms of pure attack speed, perhaps even the weaker Kage couldn't reach this level. However, it was still a little weak for him. Aizen also used a sword draw, and the wind blade bounced off his opponent's sword strike. The bounced attack fell to the side, leaving a long and narrow gully in the thick ground. You actually used a chopper bullet to block my attack. Mifyun's mind was shaken, but his hand movements did not slow down at all. While moving quickly, he sent out a few fierce and violent slashes. Lightning speed, meteor slash. Sword energy danced in the sky like a meteor. The energy blade and chakra intertwined with each other, erupting a powerful aura. Compared to Mifyun's attack, Aizen simply waved his sword, and with pure power, he sent out a huge wave of energy that was more than 10 meters long. The attacks from both sides collided with each other, creating a huge tornado that connected the sky and the earth. This wasn't an ordinary tornado, but a sword storm formed by countless small attacks. The audience widened their eyes, afraid to miss a single scene. Amazing. We samurai can be so strong. They're too strong they could be called sword saints in the past. Amidst the wanton airwaves, the three ships seized the opportunity to rush forward and engage in close combat with the other party. Aizen waved his sword elegantly, and in a flash, he was in front of Mifyun. Mifyun subconsciously raised his sword to block, but as soon as he did, his face changed. The power coming from the blade was so strong that he almost lost his grip on the sword and it almost slipped out of his hand. Mifyun took a deep breath, and his arms that held the sword suddenly swelled. The veins on his arms bulged like a python. Mifyun roared, and the sudden burst of power sent his opponent flying. Aizen, on the other hand, jumped in the air and rushed back faster than when he was sent flying. With the speed bonus, the impact was so strong that even Mifyun, who had strengthened his muscles, couldn't block it. As soon as they came into contact, Mifyun was sent flying by an unstoppable force and slammed into the wall. However, he didn't have time to recover. While he was still embedded in the wall, Aizen sent a sharp kenki towards him. Mifyun slapped the wall behind him with his left hand and spun to avoid the attack. Then he bent his legs and used the recoil to jump towards his opponent. He leaped into the air and slashed down with an indomitable momentum, as if he was going to split the earth. Aizen stood still with his sword, and when his opponent's attack was about to hit him, he raised his sword. Boom! A powerful blast of air exploded like a thunderclap. The kenki scattered in all directions, leaving dense holes in the hard ground. Then the three ships were thrown out again. Seeing this, the four ghosts in the room were silent. After a while they spoke with difficulty. Monster. A monster among monsters. Even in their eyes, the samurai named Mifyun was already powerful enough. But in front of Aizen he couldn't even resist. The most important thing is that they know that Aizen bought the sword on the way here. In other words, this swordsmanship was just for fun. Even so, it was difficult for the admiral of the three ships to withstand. The battle in the field was still going on. What a powerful opponent. Mifyun sighed. Although Aizen didn't know much about swordsmanship, his every move was aimed at his opponent's vital points. He simplified swordsmanship to the extreme. That's why it looked so messy. Is this the realm of simplifying the complicated and not working at all? Mifyun said to himself. Then he sheathed his sword and prepared to attack. Sir Aizen, please take my last attack. Simplification? I really don't know swordsmanship. I've never been complicated before. Aizen sighed. He didn't explain and just stood there calmly. Come. Aedo, Soul Breaker. A dazzling light flashed as Mifyun appeared in front of Aizen and slashed down. Aizen felt a trace of danger from this speed. Unfortunately, it was only a trace of danger. When he used his full strength, the result was already decided. With a loud boom, the three ships were sent flying, and the long swords that they were holding were also sent spinning away. As a samurai, he couldn't even hold his sword. Obviously, the outcome was clear. Although they had already predicted the outcome from the previous decline of the three ships, when this scene really happened, the warriors on the spectator stand still couldn't believe it. No matter what, he was still a general of the Land of Iron, the most powerful warrior in the Land of Iron. Is this a lie? Mifyun actually lost. He's already very strong. Mifyun is at least in the 100 swords realm. Even the four ghosts in the spectator room fell into a daze. Who is Sir Aizen? First, genjutsu, then swordsmanship. Is he also good at 5 elements release in medical ninjutsu? Why don't you say he's also proficient in sealing and space-time ninjutsu? Haha, that's right. It's impossible. Chapter 336. The next day, the news of the defeat of the Land of Iron's shogun spread in a small area. If the kage of the 5 great shinobi villages were defeated, the news would definitely spread like a whirlwind throughout the ninja world. But if it was the Land of Iron or a battle between samurai, the average ninja wouldn't care at all. After all, ninjas have been the mainstream of this world for too long. In their view, the so-called samurai duel is no different from children playing house. In this case, even the Battle of the Land of Iron's shogun is difficult to attract attention. However, for those who have been inquiring about the news, this information was still noticed. Land of Rain in an abandoned building. Is Hanzo still unwilling to fight with us? Nagato asked coldly. Until we find a way to deal with your ability, he probably won't show up. Yahiko shook his head and said, "Humph, coward." Nagato sneered. "Don't underestimate him." Yahiko said with a dignified expression. "Last time, didn't he wait for you to be exhausted before he came back to attack? If it weren't for Senpai, he would have won by now." Nagato was somewhat unconvinced. "Last time I wasn't familiar with the power, but this time I won't show any signs of exhaustion." Yahiko sighed. "The power of the eyes is too heavy for you, don't use it if you can." Nagato wanted to say something, but he saw Conan excitedly flapping his paper wings and flying back. "Conan, you look so happy, did something good happen?" Yahiko asked with a smile. "Of course it's something good." Conan scattered his wings and lightly landed on the ground. "I may have found the whereabouts of my benefactor." "Really?" Nagato asked excitedly. "Although I'm not sure, it's very likely." Conan took out a few photos and handed them over. "Look." The two took the photos and saw the scene of the battle between two samurai, but their speed was too fast, so the photos only captured two blurry afterimages. After flipping through a few mosaics, the two of them finally found a clearer picture. Before Yahiko could say anything, Nagato was already excited. "That's right, this is the dress. Although he's not wearing a mask, his temperament can't be concealed. Speaking of masks, take a look at this." Conan handed him another photo. It was a red-haired woman holding a baby. Yahiko was a little puzzled. "Is there a problem?" "This woman is with him," Conan explained first and then said, "Look at the backpack she's carrying." "Backpack?" Yahiko squinted his eyes and looked over. After a while he exclaimed, "I think I can see a horn in the backpack. Could it be the horn on the Grim Reaper's mask that you guys were talking about?" "Very likely." Conan nodded. "Besides, the woman and the child's characteristics are also worth paying attention to." At this time Nagato, who had been silent since he saw the woman's photo, suddenly said, "It's the hair." I still remember that during the Chunin exam, Garashi said that the most obvious characteristic of the Uzumaki clan is their red hair. "Yeah." Conan nodded slightly. "Although it can't be said that the red-haired woman is an Uzumaki, they are with the uncle who is suspected to be our benefactor. If we connect all these together, we can have a reasonable guess." "I know." Yahiko clapped his hands. "This uncle is our benefactor. He saved us last time because Nagato and his wife and daughter are Uzumaki." "Wife and daughter?" Conan was surprised. "How do you know?" "Isn't it?" Yahiko laughed. "I think it's quite similar. Instead of guessing, it's better to take the initiative to find him," Conan suggested. "Okay." Yahiko was the first to agree. "I've been wanting to thank him for a long time. Nagato, what about you?" Seeing both of them looking at him, Nagato, who was still shocked by the news, nodded. "Let's go now." Land of Iron, General's Mansion. "Sir Aizen, are you really not going to live in the Land of Iron?" Mifune asked with some regret. "No, I want to see more of the scenery." Aizen declined with a smile. "Yes, with your strength, ordinary opponents can't make you improve." Mifune sighed. "If you want to become stronger, you can only learn from nature." "That's not it," Aizen said humbly. "I came this time to learn the Land of Iron's body forging technique." "Body forging technique?" Mifune wondered. "Does Sir Aizen not have it?" "Of course not, but I think the ninjas can replace the samurai. In addition to the magic of ninjutsu, the main reason is the superior refining method. Refining chakra requires a combination of physical and spiritual energy, but body forging technique only requires physical energy. It should be easier than refining chakra, but in fact it's the opposite." After a pause, Aizen sighed. "So, I think if I can create a more efficient way to use physical energy, it might not be able to replace the ninjas, but it can at least restore some of the samurai's decline." Mifune was shocked. "Sir Aizen is collecting body forging technique for the future of the samurai? You're even challenging the weak to experience it?" Aizen laughed. "It's a bold idea, I'm sorry. I didn't expect Sir Aizen to be doing such a great thing." Mifune sighed and then said in a trembling voice, "Please let me do my part. Let me collect the body forging methods of the Land of Iron. Although it's not as good as ninjas, samurai have also developed a lot of methods to temper the body over a long period of time, such as breathing method, medicinal bath method, hammering method, and a series of other methods. Aizen hesitated. Isn't this too troublesome? Mifune shook his head. Compared to your idea, it's just a trivial matter. In that case, I'll give you a gift in return. Aizen took out a scroll. This is a new body forging technique I collected from Woodleaf. It's amazing, but the ninjas are too arrogant. Few are willing to waste time on it. Using Morio as a blueprint, and after his and Orochimaru's joint research, they finally came up with Konoha's body forging version 1.0, the Rising Sun. Although it was much better than the average body forging technique, it still didn't reach his ideal effect. There was no other way. There were too few research materials. Even if he did it himself, it would be difficult to provide much data. Mifune didn't know what he was thinking and was still hesitating. Woodleaf's body forging technique? Won't it cause a dispute? The other side was a wandering samurai, so naturally he didn't care. But after all, he was a general of the Land of Iron. Don't worry, although Woodleaf doesn't treat his own people well, he's always good to outsiders. Aizen said. You just need to send a messenger to flatter him and ask Woodleaf to make a copy of the body forging technique for you. After all, the ninjas don't value body forging techniques. It seems so. Mifune suddenly understood and immediately became firm in his belief. Since Sir Aizen strongly recommends this body forging method, I will definitely give it a try. Chapter 337. A few days later, in a room of a hostel. Mifune Admiral is really swift and decisive. He found so many training methods in just a few days. Aizen sighed as he looked at the mountain of scrolls in front of him. However, it wasn't surprising that Mifune was so cooperative. On the one hand, these training methods were just basic things, so they weren't valuable. On the other hand, collecting training methods proved that he was developing a new training method. Otherwise, why would he need so many training methods? Of course, in the end, strength was everything. Just like an ordinary person, no one would care if they shouted for peace. But if the same words came from the mouth of the first Naruto, it would be regarded as a standard. Mifune was looking forward to the method of efficiently using the body's energy. Suddenly, Kana's voice came from outside the door. Aizen-sama. Please come in. Opening the door, Kana came in with food. Aizen-sama, I brought you lunch. Sorry to trouble you. Aizen smiled and looked outside. Friends outside, don't you want to come in? Sorry. Accompanied by this voice, 2 men and a woman walked in. Seeing this, Kana quickly put the food on the table and stood in front of Aizen. Who are you? If you come closer, don't blame me for being rude. Although her potential wasn't weak, it took time to draw out the power in her body. She had only been cultivating for a few days, so she couldn't be that strong. The reason why she was so confident was that she could close the door and release 4 ghosts at once. Don't worry, we're not bad people. Yahiko smiled and pushed Nagato. Look, this guy has the same hair as you. He's also an Uzumaki. Seeing him directly mention the Uzumaki clan, Kana's heart relaxed. After all, she had been taught by the 4 ancestors for a while and knew some of the characteristics of the Uzumaki clan. However, she didn't give in. It's no use trying to get close. If you don't tell me your purpose, I won't let you get close to Aizen-sama. Yahiko had no choice but to wave at Aizen. Senpai, are you the one who saved us from Hanzo? Aizen chuckled. That's me. Huh. You admitted it. Seeing him admit it so quickly, the 3 were dumbfounded. Shouldn't he deny it, then they'll take evidence, deny it, take evidence, and finally admit it? Since you're here, what's the point of me denying it? Aizen chuckled. Besides, I didn't do anything shameful, right? Haha, as expected of Senpai. Yahiko grinned. Senpai's straightforwardness was to his liking. Hearing their conversation, Kana's eyes softened. Have you been saved by Sir Aizen as well? Aizen-sama. Yahiko was surprised. Also? Sister, were you also saved by Senpai? She glanced at Aizen and saw that he didn't stop her. She rolled up her sleeves and said calmly. Because of the strong vitality of the Uzumaki, I was treated as a medical ninja until Aizen-sama appeared and took me away from the abyss. Looking at the bite marks on her arm, the 3 subconsciously moved their eyes to other parts of her body. Although they were covered by her clothes, they could still see the teeth marks. Conan bit his lower lip. Those people are too much. Nagato's eyes were cold. A group of scum. He was also an Uzumaki, but he was much luckier than them. At least he had his teacher and a close friend who was always by his side. She shook her head slightly. I'm lucky enough to meet Aizen-sama. Not a wife and daughter. Yahiko's guess was wrong and he sighed in frustration. I thought that Senpai's wife and daughter are both from the Uzumaki clan, so he saved us for the sake of our clan. Wife and daughter, how can you talk nonsense about this? Kana's eyes were dizzy, and steam was rising from the top of her head. She was almost turning into a steam girl. Actually, I saved you and Kana because of the Uzumaki. Aizen sighed. What? Yahiko was surprised. Senpai, are you also an Uzumaki? Is it because of a genetic mutation that you don't have red hair? Hearing this, everyone looked at Aizen curiously. It's just that when I see the Uzumaki's experience, I can't help but feel sad. Aizen's eyes flashed with a trace of loneliness. Was Senpai's family also exterminated? They secretly guessed but didn't ask more. Seeing the atmosphere suddenly become heavy, Yahiko clapped his hands and changed the topic. Sister, you're from Nagato, do you want to join our organization? Kana was confused. Although she had a good impression of these people, wasn't it too hasty to invite them to join the organization for the first time? Seeing Kana's stunned expression, Yahiko introduced her. Our organization was established to achieve the final peace. It's an organization full of ideals, responsibilities, and vitality. Kana was silent for a moment. I will only follow behind Sama. That's even better. Yahiko finally remembered what he came here for. He looked at Aizen with passion. Senpai, please join us. Aizen smiled. You don't even know my identity, origin, and personality, yet you want to invite me to join? That's not important. Yahiko looked at him with bright eyes. As long as we have the same dream, it's enough. I believe Senpai is also a dream chaser for peace. In this world, it's rare to see someone as pure as you. Aizen sighed. Then Senpai, do you agree? Yahiko asked excitedly. You have to give me some time to think about it. Aizen said helplessly. It seems I pushed you too hard. Yahiko laughed. But Senpai, don't think about sneaking away. Aizen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why would I run away? That's the best. Like a bully, Yahiko put his hands on his hips and laughed as he left with Nagato. What a strange person. Kana complained. After making sure they were gone, Aizen released the mask. Then a few ghosts excitedly floated out of the mask. I didn't expect there to be people alive. Great. Sama, Aizen, why didn't you let us out? Are they not good people? Is that why you didn't let them meet the ancestors? Kana suddenly became alert. Although Nagato was from the same clan as her, compared to Aizen-sama's kindness, being from the same clan was nothing. Chapter 338. That's not it. Aizen shook his head slightly. It's just that they represent some kind of danger? They represent danger? What do you mean? The four Uzumaki were confused. Kana, tell your ancestors what you saw in Nagato's eyes. Aizen said. My fellow clansmen? Kana held her chin and muttered, now that I think about it, it's a bit strange. His eyes are different from ordinary people, there are circles of ripples around his pupils. She has only been in contact with the ninja world for a few days, so naturally she doesn't know many secrets, so she just felt strange. Circles of ripples? Yaya was shocked. Is it the legendary Rinnegan? Hearing this, the other three were shocked. What? The eyes of the legendary Rikudo Sennin? But isn't that a myth? Did you get the wrong person? Is it just an eye disease? However, Aizen shook his head slightly. No, I have confirmed it, it's the Rinnegan. That kind of eye is actually real. After the shock, Masaki couldn't help but ask, but isn't this a good thing? Why are you saying it's dangerous? Aizen said in a deep voice, although the Uzumaki have a strong physique, do you think it's reasonable to awaken a Kekkei Genkai? This. If it was the Uchiha or Hyuga who awakened the Rinnegan, it could be explained as a mutation, but in the Uzumaki it's a bit strange. Hearing Aizen's words, everyone was shocked. Indeed, because the Rinnegan has almost never appeared in the ninja world, they subconsciously ignored some details. But Masaki still had some doubts. But if he didn't awaken it by himself, is it possible that someone else transplanted it? In the ninja world, there are always people who snatch the Kekkei Genkai who gives their Kekkei Genkai to others. Not to mention, it's the Rinnegan that only exists in legends. Chishua nodded. Maybe one of his parents has the Rinnegan Kekkei Genkai? It just happened that the mutation was a bit far away. It's possible. Aizen's expression was dignified, so I was just worried before. Because of this concern, I left directly after saving them, but I didn't expect them to find me again. I agreed. After all, it's about the existence of Rinnegan, it's always right to be cautious. Kana was worried. Lord Aizen, why don't you reject them tomorrow? Refuse? Aizen pondered for a moment, then shook his head and smiled. If someone is really behind this, then I've already been noticed. In that case, I might as well take the initiative to participate. Speaking of which, I'm really curious about the Rinnegan. What about us? Dark Knight asked. Aizen didn't want them to be exposed, so he must have his own plans. Since I plan to stand in the open, I'll have to trouble you guys to stay in the dark and keep an eye out for me. In the future, I might even let you guys join this organization with new identities. Hearing this, the four of them heaved a sigh of relief. They were worried that Lord Aizen would target Nagato. At that time, both sides will have Uzumaki bloodline, and it will be very difficult for them. Now that they knew Aizen was doing this for the good of Nagato, they would spare no effort. Yes, we understand. The next day Yahiko and the other two came again. Uncle Aizen, have you thought about it? Yahiko said as he patted his chest. Our organization is now on the rise, you won't lose out if you join now. Before I make a decision, I have two small questions. What questions? Uncle Aizen, go ahead and ask. First question. Aizen asked. How many people does your organization have now? How far has it developed? Well? Yahiko scratched his nose and said proudly. Our organization has more than 200 people. Although it's not a lot, each one is an elite. As for the development, in short, it's on the rise. Second question. Aizen didn't think much about it and asked. If I join the organization, what will I be responsible for? Do I need to stay in the base all the time? Uncle Aizen, you'll be responsible for giving us advice. You can go anywhere you want. Yahiko smiled and patted Nagato's shoulder. Our organization has a remote communication method. Aizen nodded slightly. If that's the case, I agree. Ah, that's great. Yahiko cheered. By the way, Uncle, you should prepare to let Nagato use the lantern body jutsu to let you meet your other two companions. My other two companions? Aizen showed a trace of doubt. Those two guys, how should I say it? Although they don't look like good people, they have contributed a lot to the organization. So, I still gave them the status of core members. Uncle, you can't just join without them. Yahiko said. At the same time, in the underground cave of the grass country. Did you find out the origin of that Aizen who suddenly appeared? Bordered Soil asked. There's no trace at all. Black Zetsu was surprised. It's like that guy jumped out of a stone. There's no record of him. Interesting. Bordered Soil narrowed his eyes. I don't know where he came from, but he saved Yahiko and Nagato. Madara-sama, do you think there's a problem with this person? Black Zetsu asked. It's too much of a coincidence. There's no record of him for decades, but he appeared twice in 1 year. Bordered Soil said coldly. No matter how you think about it, it's a problem. You mean he wants to join the Akatsuki like us? That's what I think. But it's strange. The only thing that people covet is Nagato's Rinnegan. Black Zetsu was puzzled. If he wants Nagato's Rinnegan, he had a chance to save him last time. It's strange, but it's not without reason. For example. Bordered Soil's eyes were cold. He guessed the origin of Nagato's Rinnegan. What? Black Zetsu was shocked. In other words, his goal may be us. Bordered Soil calmly explained. Is that really the case? Let's see if he will join the Akatsuki. If he really joins the Akatsuki, we have to be careful. Of course, we don't have to be too afraid. Even if he guessed that there's a problem with Nagato's Rinnegan, he may not be able to link it to us. Black Zetsu pondered for a moment. If he really joins the Akatsuki, do we have to expose him in front of Yahiko? How do we expose him? Obito shook his head. If we're talking about suspicious, we're more suspicious than he is. Moreover, this invitation is the spontaneous action of Yahiko. They can't invite others, but we can't accuse others of having bad intentions. That's also true. Black Zetsu nodded, but he was also surprised. Why did he feel that Bordered Soil became smarter when he was scheming against others? If this guy was so sensitive about Rin's matter, maybe he would have noticed some unreasonable things at that time. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu was nervous. Some of the traces I left should be cleaned up, right? Bordered Soil didn't know what Black Zetsu was thinking. But it's okay to give them some trouble. Yahiko and the others didn't think too much about it because they didn't have enough information. But if I were to reveal some of the unreasonable points, we wouldn't even have to do anything, they would have already cracked. Chapter 339. Just as the two of them were talking, they suddenly received several waves of longing waves. Yahiko-san, since you are in such a hurry, it seems that you have successfully recruited new members. Black Zetsu laughed. Humph. Let's go in and see. Bordered Soil snorted and sat cross-legged. At this moment in the illusion space. Lantern Body Jutsu? This ability is indeed very convenient. Aizen praised. The Lantern Body Jutsu didn't project the soul but the image of the body. Otherwise, Sasori wouldn't have projected the appearance of the puppet. Of course. Yahiko laughed. Nagato is very powerful. Aizen smiled and didn't answer. Soon, an aloe's head and a person wearing a whirlpool mask appeared in the illusion space. Yahiko's group of 3, Bordered Soil's group of 2 and Aizen's group of 6. Haha, our team is finally strong again. Yahiko laughed. Madara, Zetsu, let me introduce you, this is my new companion, Sosuke Aizen. Aizen was surprised. Madara? Haha, in fact he is a fanatical admirer of Uchiha Madara. You can call him Hoodlum by his real name. Yahiko explained. Bordered Soil's mouth twitched under his mask. In order to leave a deep impression on Nagato, he deliberately revealed his identity as Uchiha Madara. Although Yahiko suspected him, he didn't care at that time. After all, in his opinion, Yahiko was already a dead man. But who would have thought that Yahiko would miraculously escape? In order to dispel the other party's suspicion, he had to appear as Hoodlum, a fanatical admirer of Madara. His plan deviated a little. At first, he planned to control the Akatsuki behind the scenes, making them respect him as Uchiha Madara, but now it's different, he wants to appear in the shinobi world as a member of the Akatsuki, so using the identity of Uchiha Madara is somewhat inappropriate. Boss Yahiko, don't expose me. Hoodlum was driven mad as he wriggled his body like a maggot. I wanted to enjoy the shock of a newcomer. Haha, next time, definitely next time. Yahiko laughed. At first he thought it was a disguise, but as time passed he gradually realized that the other party was indeed a clown. How could such a person be Uchiha Madara? Sighing in his heart, Yahiko continued, now that everyone knows each other then? At this moment, Hoodlum suddenly raised his right hand and gestured wildly. Yahiko looked at him suspiciously. Hoodlum, is there a problem? I also don't want to question you, boss, but if he wants to join Akatsuki, then he must have some strength. Hoodlum crossed his arms and said unconvinced, I still don't know his strength. You clearly investigated more thoroughly than they did. Black Jew's heart was filled with disdain, but at the same time he was surprised. How did this guy manage to lie without any flaws? Yahiko wasn't angry. Hoodlum didn't know Uncle Aizen's strength, so his reaction was normal. Aizen-senpai is very powerful. Last time he saved us from Hanzo the Salamander, and this time he defeated a samurai in the Land of Iron with his swordsmanship. Amazing. Too amazing. Hoodlum's expression was exaggerated as he shouted. If the newcomer senpai is so powerful, why haven't I heard of him before? Why do I feel like he suddenly popped out from some unknown corner? Newcomer senpai? Conan couldn't help but ask. He is a newcomer and a senpai, so he is a newcomer senpai. Hoodlum pretended to be crazy. You want to use my identity to make them doubt me? Oh, what a bad boy. Aizen secretly laughed. Fortunately, I was prepared. He sighed bitterly. Because I'm an undead that doesn't belong to this era. Don't belong to this era? Undead? Everyone was puzzled. Yahiko shouted in horror. Uncle, are you dead? Oh, let me tell you a story. Aizen said, a long time ago before chakra existed, the rulers of this land weren't humans but gods, demons and sage. Humans could only rely on their physical strength to survive between the cracks of these gods. Later, an outsider who claimed to be a god came to this world and swept away the masters with absolute power. He also brought the chakra system to the humans. Everyone was grateful and worshipped the true god. They thought they could finally be reborn, but this happiness didn't last long. The god was corrupted by power and became a ferocious demon. He was crueler than the masters of the past and took everything away from the people. People began to resist, but it was useless. Instead, they angered the god and started a disaster. Everyone died, but for some reason one person fell into a deep sleep. When he opened his eyes again, the world had become very strange. There were no more people and even his enemies were gone. In order to understand the final outcome of the war, he began to frantically search for history. Although he didn't find anything, he learned a lot about the Uzumaki clan. Then he met you. Your belief in pursuing peace, and Nagato's similar experience made him leave his mark in this era for the first time. That's the whole story. Yahiko and the others were at a loss. Bordered Soil frowned slightly. Only Black Zetsu looked at him in shock. Everything is right. Is this guy really a fish that escaped Mother's net before the destruction of the world? Black Zetsu was shocked and suddenly his eyes widened. Wait, if he has experienced that era, he should know that his enemy has Rinnegan. I finally understand. He entered the Akatsuki to trace his enemy through Nagato's Rinnegan. That is Mother-sama. But isn't he afraid of being exposed? While Black Zetsu was pondering, Aizen chuckled. Just think of it as a story. Sometimes even I can't tell what's real and what's false. Maybe it's just a bad dream. However, Yahiko suddenly understood. No wonder Uncle said that you saved us because Nagato's experience was similar to yours. Then he said resolutely, Uncle, I will help you find the truth. Aizen was surprised. Do you believe me? Conan nodded sympathetically. No wonder Uncle is so strong, but you didn't want to say it at first. It must be because it brings back sad memories. Nagato also nodded. Senpai, did you untie the knot in your heart after saving Sister Chanel? Is that why you don't hide the fact that you used to be a samurai? Conan was surprised again. Uncle, your illusion is so powerful. You must want to see the difference between reality and illusion, right? So that's what I was thinking. Aizen looked at them strangely. Yes, I used to be a samurai. After waking up, I studied the mysteries of chakra. Now I've picked up swordsmanship again. After all, chakra is the power of that devil. If I only rely on chakra, I won't be her opponent even if I find her. Chapter 340. Yahiko scratched his head and said, It's been so many years, Uncle, your enemy should be dead by now, right? Aizen said with a smile, Who knows? But if you want to live, you have to find a goal for yourself. Bordered Soil frowned, although he instinctively felt that Aizen was talking nonsense, but thinking about it carefully, what Aizen said didn't seem to be unreasonable. Otherwise, how can such a powerful person not leave any trace in the ninja world? Moreover, in a world where ninjas are the mainstream, such a powerful swordsmanship. Go back and ask Zetsu as Madara's will, he should know more than me. I know. On the other side, Black Zetsu's pupils suddenly shrank. He said that he didn't find anything, but that's just his own statement. Maybe he already knows about my two bastard brothers. Think about it, he's a person who lived through that era, he knows how strong my mother is, and now that he found the Rinnegan in Nagato, he may guess that my mother is not dead, so he intends to use himself as bait to lure my mother out and expose her in front of my brother. It's a pity that he doesn't know that my mother is indeed sealed, and the one who really led Nagato is actually me, Black Zetsu. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu's eyes were dignified. Although it's just my guess, I must be vigilant against this guy. He can point out the loophole, that the enemy has the Rinnegan, but the problem is, how can he explain the history of the Rinnegan? It's really a headache. The illusion space was quiet for a moment as if digesting this shocking news. After a while, Yahiko continued, Back to the topic, Hoodlum, how is the development of your demon army? Hoodlum scratched his head and said, 1 2 is 2, 2 4 is 16, maybe 2,000? No, it's more like 3,000? Oh, in short, it's less than 100,000. At the beginning, he relied on the White Zetsu army to enter the Akatsuki. Of course, the reason he gave was that he wanted to use the power of the Geto Mazo to cultivate demons. Otherwise, it would be strange for him to shamelessly want to enter the Akatsuki, which is not very strong at the moment. Demon army? Aizen asked in a timely manner. It's a type of demonic creature that Hoodlum found. It can be used to nurture clones into the strength of an army. Yahiko said seriously, I don't want anyone to die, but to achieve peace, we must have enough power to deter those big countries. Maybe an army produced by these monsters can meet the requirements. Don't you want people to die? What a simple idea. Aizen said. But that won't be easy. 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers won't be able to intimidate those big countries. Yahiko sighed and looked at Hoodlum. What else do you need to build an army of 100,000 magical creatures? Hoodlum tilted his head. Yeah, what do you need? Yahiko's mouth twitched. I'm the one asking you. Hoodlum said aggrievedly, even if you ask me, I don't know. Ju laughed from the side. Let me say it. It should be money, territory, and time. Ju, tell me in detail. First of all, money. Using the Geto Golem to nurture demonic creatures also requires resources. Where are we going to get these resources? Of course, we can only buy them with money from those big countries. Next is territory. Whether it's to place an army or nurture demonic creatures, we need an independent territory. Otherwise, it's easy to be discovered by others. Finally, time. Nurturing these demonic creatures isn't something that can be done overnight. Only with enough time can we grow to the point where the entire ninja world will be afraid of us. Hoodlum nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Yes, that's what I think. Territory is easy, let's use the rain country. Nagato said with a murderous look. Let Hanzo experience the pain of losing something precious. Yahiko frowned. Hanzo isn't an ordinary person. As a former shinobi demigod, his every move is watched by the ninja world. If we kill him, won't we expose Akatsuki to everyone? At that time, it will be difficult for us to develop in secret. Nagato was depressed. Are we just going to let him go like this? Of course we can't let him go. Although Yahiko was kind, he didn't have a good impression of Hanzo, who almost killed the three of them. Didn't I deliberately threaten him recently so that he would take the initiative to retreat into the rain country? Wait until he completely disconnects from the outside world, let the outside world think that he's retired, then we will kill him. At that time, even if he dies, no one will notice. Nagato nodded. Let him live a little longer. At this time, Aizen suddenly said. Hanzo worked from the bottom step by step. With his vision, he may be able to see your thoughts. If you push him too hard, Nagato may be in danger. Nagato didn't care. It's okay, I have almost mastered the power of the Rinnegan. If we fight again, that bastard Hanzo won't be my opponent. I'm not talking about this. Aizen shook his head slightly. Nagato, you should have used the power of the Rinnegan when you scared Hanzo last time, right? Nagato hesitated and nodded. Yes. Ordinary people may not recognize your Rinnegan, but how can Hanzo not recognize it? The reason why he didn't let the news spread in the shinobi world is because he took a fancy to your eyes. Yahiko was shocked. You mean if Hanzo feels that the risk exceeds the benefits, he may spread the news of the Rinnegan? Aizen nodded. The Rinnegan is very powerful, but can you guarantee that you can avoid every attack? Yahiko pondered. Yes, I thought too simply. Nagato proposed. Let me kill him. If I attract attention, I will cut off my connection with Akatsuki. Yahiko hesitated. But, actually, I have an idea. Aizen smiled. I almost forgot. Uncle, I asked you to be my military counselor. Yahiko urged. Uncle, tell me your idea. In fact, the battle between Akatsuki and Hanzo has attracted a lot of attention. The best way to divert their attention from us is to let Hanzo kill us. Yahiko frowned, but he quickly reacted. I understand, control Hanzo, let him be the master of the Rain Kingdom, and then we can retreat behind the scenes and develop in secret. But how do we control Hanzo? Conan gently touched his chin. With genjutsu? But can someone like Hanzo be controlled by genjutsu? I'm familiar with this. Bordered Soil was about to recommend himself, but before he could speak, Aizen smiled and said, Let me try. Chapter 341. Conan was puzzled. Uncle, your genjutsu is very powerful, but didn't you say last time that you might not be Hanzo's opponent? Aizen smiled. If I was alone, let alone controlling him, it would be difficult to defeat him. But with help, it would be different. Yahiko suddenly understood. I understand. We will attack together and beat Hanzo half to death, then Uncle can control him. That's it. Aizen nodded. Hanzo is very strong. To be on the safe side, I suggest that the six of us attack together. Bordered Soil's mouth twitched. This guy had just joined the Akatsuki, and now he wants him to work for free? That's really powerful. Yes, if we let him escape, we might be in trouble. Yahiko said and turned to the side. Hoodlum, are you okay? Bordered Soil forced a smile. Of course, no problem. Very good, the problem of territory is solved. Yahiko nodded with satisfaction, then asked, Speaking of funds, Conan, how much money do we have now? Aizen's expression was strange. Letting Conan manage the finances, wasn't he afraid that she would use the funds to buy explosive charms? Conan quickly replied, Only 30 million. What? Yahiko was shocked. How can it be so little? He had previously bragged to the uncle that they were on the rise. Xiaonan sighed. After the war ended, we lost a lot of employment. Our source of funds was broken, but the places where we spent money didn't decrease. We need money to cultivate monsters, buy weapons, and last time we fell into a trap and caused many of our companions to die. We also have to pay a large amount of compensation. Speaking of this, Yahiko's mood sank. This is my leader's fault, the compensation must be paid. Conan concluded, in short, if we continue like this in less than 2 months, we won't have any money left. Yahiko looked distressed. Increase sources of income and reduce expenditure. In the current situation, there's no way to reduce expenditure, so we can only think of ways to increase sources of income. Everyone, do you have any ways to make money? Bordered Soil was speechless. An organization that wants to subvert the order of the shinobi world is talking about ways to make money here. The situation suddenly dropped. Hoodlum, do you have any ideas? Bordered Soil whistled. Boss Yahiko, don't ask me to make money. I'm only good at spending money. I'm good at this too, Yahiko said with a dark face. Black Zetsu instigated. Miss Angel, don't you know paper ninjutsu? Can't you just print some fake money? Fake money? Conan panicked. I can't do that. Yahiko shook his head. Fake banknotes will only harm the people at the bottom. This is not in line with the beliefs of the organization. Black Zetsu laughed. Then I can't do anything. Nagato was silent for a moment. I heard that the Kazekage in the Sand Crypsis village made a lot of money by working part-time. Should we? Seeing that Akatsuki's reputation was falling, Aizen hurriedly said, I think we should recruit a few more professionals. Professionals? Yahiko nodded thoughtfully. Yes, it's better to leave this kind of thing to the professionals. Aizen continued. I think the biggest problem the organization has right now is the lack of talent. Yahiko asked. Talent? Aizen said, what is the most important thing in the new era of the shinobi world? Talent? Yahiko nodded. It makes sense. Aizen continued, in addition to management, we also need people who can research and develop technology, people who specialize in combat, people who can gather intelligence. Yahiko looked around at the crowd. Do you have any recommendations regarding talents? Conan said softly. If you want to make money, I recommend Takajin Kakuzu. I heard that he has his own unique views on making money. Kakuzu, right? I will remember. Yahiko nodded slightly and asked, is there anyone else? Aizen suggested. For R&D, I recommend Sasori of the Sand Crypsis. If possible, Orochimaru of Woodleaf is also a good choice. Orochimaru is the disciple of Sandaime Naruto. The possibility of him joining us is not high. Yahiko shook his head. Let's talk about Sasori of the Red Sand. Sasori of the Red Sand is a genius among puppeteers. With his ability, he might be able to create a puppet army. Aizen smiled. Yahiko, don't you want an army that won't die? But isn't it expensive to create puppets? Yahiko said gloomily. We can't afford a second army. Then let him develop new puppet technology. Keep the most advanced puppets and sell the outdated ones. This way we can recover some research funds. Yahiko's eyes lit up. That's good. As for fighting talents, I also recommend one. Black Zetsu said with a smile. Kirin, one of the 7 legendary swordsmen, Kurosawa Rei. Kurosawa Rei? Can this guy do it? Yahiko looked doubtful. I heard that he was scared by Garashi during the war and ran away. Garashi. Bordered Soil frowned. They also know Senpai, but they haven't heard anything about him. Being scared away by Shimizu Garashi isn't shameful. Black Zetsu smiled. How many people in the world dare to face such a monster? Besides, aren't those who specialize in fighting just cannon fodder? If they die, we can just pull in a few more people. Anyway, there aren't many people in the world who specialize in fighting. Okay, I'll take him. Yahiko looked around. Does anyone have a recommendation? Seeing no one speak, Yahiko nodded. Then we'll take the 3 of them. After controlling Hanzo, we'll invite them separately. Conan and I will find Kakuzu. Uncle will find Sasori. Zetsu and Hoodlum will find Kurosawa. Any objections? No. I also agree. Yahiko nodded with satisfaction. Then the meeting is over. We'll meet 3 days later at the base of the Rain Country. Hoodlum, you've been there, so I won't go into details. The meeting ended. Under the land of grass. Bordered Soil opened his eyes and stood up. An undead that doesn't belong to this era? Oh, interesting. Black Zetsu, what do you think? Black Zetsu was silent for a moment. I can't see through it. Bordered Soil turned around. You can't see through it? Although I'm not sure if what he said is true or not, Madara-sama has studied it. Chakra may not have existed in the beginning. It was the Six-Path Senpai who brought chakra to this world. Six-Path Senpai? Bordered Soil frowned under his mask. You mean the one who fell from god to demon is the Six-Path Senpai? After silently throwing the blame on the Six Paths, Black Zetsu sighed. I don't know, but this person is too mysterious. Before we get more information, we'd better not provoke him. Chapter 342. In the sky it was drizzling. Hanzo stood in front of the window with his hands behind his back and asked, "What's the Akatsuki's movement recently?" A jonin stood behind him and respectfully said, "It's the same as before. As long as we leave the village, they will attack us crazily." "Oh, they really don't relax at all." Hanzo chuckled and waved his hand. "You can go first." "Yes." When the room was quiet again, Hanzo secretly thought, "Is it because of my cautious character that they want to push me to a dead end step by step? However, this may be an opportunity for me. As long as I show fear, those arrogant brats will most likely look down on me, and this is enough time for me to arrange a trap for them." Hanzo thought like this and suddenly felt uneasy. The surroundings were too quiet, so quiet that he couldn't even hear the sound of the crowd outside. Something's wrong. Hanzo's pupils shrank. He quietly opened the window, intending to escape from the window. But as soon as he jumped out of the window, he was pushed back into the room by a repulsive force. Then the door suddenly opened. Conan stood at the door and raised his hand. Hundreds of paper shurikens shot out. Yahiko put the oil made from chakra in his mouth and used the oil ball, more powerful than ordinary fire release. The bursting flame ignited the paper shurikens and turned them into flaming shurikens that rushed toward Hanzo. Although he was pushed back by the repulsive force and couldn't borrow any force in the air, Hanzo was a former demigod, and his combat experience was not comparable to Yahiko. In this disadvantageous situation, he still calmly made hand seals and spouted a stream of water from his mouth, letting the water tightly wrap around him. The flaming shurikens were quickly extinguished after being shot into the stream of water, and the kinetic energy of the shurikens was reduced a lot by the stream of water, so it didn't have much power when it fell on Hanzo's body. "Ha, that was close." Hanzo breathed a sigh of relief, but suddenly he felt something strange growing on his body. "What is this? Is it absorbing my chakra?" Looking at the white bloated thing that tightly bound him, Hanzo's face slightly changed. He made hand seals with his bound right hand and spouted a flame from his mouth to ignite the spore. "How decisive. Aren't you afraid of burning yourself?" Just as he was laughing, a voice rang out in the room. "Would release, cutting technique." "What? Would escape?" Hanzo's expression changed greatly. Would release was now Shimizu Garashi's symbol. Impossible. With Shimizu Garashi's strength, there is no need for him to team up with others to attack me. However, a few wooden arrows shot towards him at an extremely fast speed. "What? It's really would release." Feeling uneasy, Hanzo couldn't dodge in time and a wooden arrow brushed past his shoulder. Before he could catch his breath, a slight sound of something breaking through the air came from behind him. Hanzo barely managed to hold the scythe horizontally behind him, but a powerful force came from the point of contact and threw him away. Hanzo crashed through the wall and fell into the mud. 6 figures walked out of the rain. "These bastards cough." Looking at the 6 people surrounding him, Hanzo's face was very ugly. In the confrontation just now, he almost figured out the approximate strength of the other side. The weakest one was an elite jonin, Konan Yahiko. The aloe head and the masked man were also very strange. One quietly planted strange things on him, and the other one can use would release. As for Nagato and the samurai, one has Rinnegan, and their overall strength is even above him, and the other one's swordsmanship is fierce, even he can't resist. Such an opponent is very difficult to deal with even if there is only one person, let alone 6 people working together. "Oh, you really think highly of me?" Hanzo coughed blood, his face gloomy. "Where are my men?" "Don't worry, I'm not as cruel as you, they just fell asleep," Yahiko said. "Genjutsu?" Hanzo asked in a deep voice. "Yes, Uncle Aizen used genjutsu to control them," Conan said. "Aizen?" Hanzo frowned. "The last time you came back to attack Nagato, it was Uncle Aizen who saved us from you," Yahiko explained. "Last time?" Hanzo was startled, his frowning brows immediately relaxed. It turned out to be him. Aizen smiled slightly. Even Hanzo himself didn't know that he was in a genjutsu. Letting Hanzo admit it himself was naturally for the sake of concluding the story at that time. After all, there were still some flaws in his lie if one were to examine it carefully. However, Yahiko didn't think much about it. After listening to Hanzo's confession, Conan chuckled softly. "It seems that you didn't tell anyone about your shameful deeds, otherwise if they were on guard, Uncle's genjutsu wouldn't have succeeded so easily." "Humph. So much nonsense." Hanzo's eyes were fierce. "If you want to kill me, at least 1 or 2 of you will die with me. Do you have this awareness? You think too highly of yourself." Nagato said coldly. "Do you think it's the same as before?" Seeing that his threat failed, Hanzo calculated in his heart. Among these 6 people, Yahiko and the other two are in a group, Aloehead and the masked man are in a group, and Aizen is alone. In terms of numbers, it seems that Aizen's group is the best to break through, but his physical fitness seems to be the strongest, so it will be difficult to break through. Hanzo's eyes moved to Bordered Soil's group. Although their abilities are strange, they look sneaky. Maybe they are the easiest to deal with, especially the masked man. His wood release isn't as powerful as the rumors say. Let's start with him. Thinking of this, Hanzo suddenly erupted and rushed straight towards Obito. Bordered Soil, who was paddling in the water, was startled and subconsciously shot a cutting technique at Hanzo. Hanzo, who was prepared, naturally wouldn't be hurt so easily. He made a seal with one hand and used the body flicker technique to dodge the attack, then appeared in front of Bordered Soil and waved his scythe. Bordered Soil subconsciously wanted to use the void to avoid the attack, but when he thought of Aizen, he forced himself to resist. He was quite afraid of the mysterious Aizen and naturally didn't want to expose his ability. Moreover, he wasn't the one who would benefit in the end, so why should he go all out? He didn't want to do such a thankless thing. However, Hanzo seemed to be entangled with him, withstanding the attacks of the other 5 people and using all his strength to beat him. Bordered Soil was still too immature, and without using his Mangekyo, he was far from being Hanzo's opponent. In just a few seconds he was surrounded by danger. Damn, why do you keep staring at me? Bordered Soil was depressed. He wasn't Hanzo's enemy and he didn't ruin Hanzo's plans, so why did this bastard keep chasing him? Aizen, on the other hand, was paying attention to Obito's movements. Hanzo had his eyes on Obito because of Aizen's influence. After all, Bordered Soil was an important chess piece. Such a chess piece had to be paid attention to at all times to prevent him from going out of control. Chapter 343. Damn, what's wrong with this bastard? Why does he keep chasing me? Do you think that I'm the weakest in this group of people? Obito was so angry that he couldn't care less about it. Seeing Hanzo rushing towards him, Obito didn't seem to be able to escape. He stood still with a panicked look on his face. Go to hell. Hanzo waved his scythe. I'll let you taste my hollow. Bordered Soil's eyes were cold. He was about to use his ability when he was suddenly pushed back by a powerful repulsive force. Boom. Seeing that hoodlum was heavily blasted into the distance, dodging the attack, Nagato said coolly. You're welcome. Bordered Soil was in pain as he stood up. When he heard Nagato's words, he almost rushed to kill him. Seeing that his plan was ruined by Nagato, Aizen shook his head slightly. Forget it, I'll use another method. For example, I'll invite the ghost mermaid first, then wait for the Bordered Soil to reveal the truth. I'll let the Bordered Soil think that he has subdued the ghost mermaid, but in fact, he's just a messenger. Thinking of this, Aizen didn't hold back anymore. Taking advantage of the fact that Hanzo was also sent flying by the repulsive force, he quickly rushed forward and lightly thrust his sword at the other side. You want me to? Hanzo stabilized his body in the air and was about to dodge when suddenly a gravitational force acted on him. Wansho Heaven's Pull. Nagato tacitly activated his ability, pulling Hanzo towards the tip of the sword. Damn it, I forgot he has gravity. Although Hanzo reacted in time and stabbed his scythe into the ground to resist the gravitational force, Aizen didn't just stand there and watch. He used teleportation jutsu and stabbed his sword into Hanzo's chest. Am I going to die? Don't worry, you won't die. While Hanzo's consciousness was fading, he used genjutsu. This is genjutsu? No, you don't want to kill me, you want to control. Seeing Hanzo's eyes go from struggling to confusion, Yahiko couldn't help but feel relieved. Finally, this guy is under control. Conan sighed. He's worthy of being a shinobi demigod. He can still burst out such a powerful force under the siege of 6 of us. A shinobi demigod has this kind of strength. I don't know how strong Garashi, the god of shinobi, is. Nagato muttered to himself. When I fully master the power of the Rinnegan, can I reach his level? Aizen said as he treated Hanzo's injuries. Get ready, we're going to set up a scene where you'll be killed. Understood. Yahiko made a gesture to spare the lives of the range shinobi, not only because he didn't want to kill more, but also because he wanted them to witness the end of the Akatsuki. Is the body of the modified monster ready? Don't worry, I'll make sure you all die horribly. That's good. Yahiko patted his head. Why does it sound so strange? Seeing that everyone was busy again, Obito's heart was filled with grief and indignation. No one cared about him. He was the only one who was injured in this operation. Boom, boom. Thunder roared as if it was going to blow a hole in the sky. Oh, it's so noisy. Garo murmured while rubbing his eyes. Suddenly he froze. Wait, shouldn't I be patrolling? How can I fall asleep? Garo quickly woke up and found that there were many people around him who were asleep, like him. Wake up, wake up. He pushed a few times but there was no response. Is it a genjutsu? Thinking of this, he quickly sent his chakra into the bodies of the people around him. Well, what's wrong with me? Good morning. It's an enemy attack, someone used genjutsu to control us. Garo urged. Hurry to Hanzo-sama's room. Everyone quickly moved and ran to Hanzo's room, only to find that it was a mess. The wall here was knocked down, it should have come from here. Everyone rushed outside and was shocked by the scene in front of them. The original forest was destroyed, the ground was crisscrossed with cracks, and the air was filled with the smell of burned flesh. Hanzo-sama is there. Hearing the voice, everyone found Hanzo sitting on a rock with a pale face. There was a terrible hole in his chest. Hanzo-sama, are you okay? Rushing to Hanzo's side, a group of hidden rain ninjas worriedly asked. Medical scrolls, give me medical scrolls. Hanzo stared and shouted. Everyone hurriedly took out medical scrolls to treat him. After tearing 4 medical scrolls in a row, Hanzo's face finally recovered a trace of color. At this time, everyone had the time to look around. They saw that there were broken limbs everywhere, and the muddy road was dyed red with blood. Hanzo-sama, these are? Hanzo coldly snorted. These are the 3 leaders of the Akatsuki. These 3 bastards are really powerful. Even in the battle with Shimizu Garashi, I didn't suffer such a serious injury, fortunately. I won in the end. Everyone carefully identified. Indeed, they could vaguely see that these were the bodies of the 3 leaders. Great, these bastards are finally dead. With the leaders dead, it will be much easier to deal with the remaining members of the Akatsuki. After the excitement, a ninja asked, Hanzo-sama, how should we deal with these bodies? Hanzo's eyes were cold. Throw these bodies into the incinerator, don't leave any trace for them. After all, they were the products of White Zetsu's clone, only the body shape and appearance were the same. If someone really wanted to compare their DNA, they would quickly find the difference. The group of hidden rain ninjas didn't think much. They only thought that Hanzo-sama hated the leaders of the Akatsuki. Yes, we will do it. In the distance, Yahiko looked at his body being cleaned like garbage. He felt a little sad. Oh, I died so miserably. Nagato said in a deep voice. Anyway, we can finally go underground. Conan asked, what should we do in the future? Hanzo is the one being controlled, his men are still conscious. This is easy. I will let Hanzo learn from the 5 great ninja villages and establish an Umbu. Aizen said methodically. At that time, let the members of the Akatsuki wear masks and join the Umbu, then separate a secret area for the Umbu to manage. Umbu? This is a good idea. Yahiko laughed twice and immediately said, then we will invite those 3 to join the Akatsuki. Zetsu asked, what if they don't want to join? Our organization is to bring love and peace to the world. If they don't agree, Yahiko said with a holy face, then it must be that their understanding of love is not deep enough, and they need to be educated about love. Chapter 344. In the land of wind, under the endless sand sea. A young man with red hair was fiddling with a puppet in front of him. Sure enough, it's still not working. Really, I wanted to keep that guy as a precious collection, but with my current strength, if I really meet him, I'll most likely become his collection. Thinking of the man named Shimizu Garashi, even Sasori, who didn't have many human emotions, felt a slight wave in his heart. If I want to have the power to protect myself in front of that man, unless I get the body of Hashirama or Uchiha Madara, otherwise even if I use those Kage's bodies as materials, it will be useless in front of him. Since it's difficult to improve the quality of the puppets, maybe I should work on the quantity. Of course, the quality of these puppets can't be too bad, at least they should be able to withstand that guy's normal attacks. Just as he was lost in his thoughts, his subordinates walked in. Sasori, Sama, we just received a piece of information. I think it may be useful to you. Sasori said while fixing the puppet. Tell me what information. Just a few days ago, some of the puppets of Sand Crypsis defected, and when they fled to the border between the land of wind and the land of river, they were caught by the Sand Crypsis. A puppet troop defected. Perhaps thinking of his own experience, Sasori stopped what he was doing and listened carefully. That defected ninja was going to lose, but maybe his luck was better. Their battle triggered an ancient mechanism and several of them fell into it. When they found the traitorous ninja again, the traitorous ninja found a stranger from who knows where. After the ore was embedded in the puppet, the strength of the puppet suddenly increased several times, and the puppet master was able to escape. That defected ninja knew the value of the ore, so the first thing he did after escaping was to spread the news, most likely to cause trouble for the Sand Crypsis, so that they won't be able to spare extra energy to deal with him. After that, his subordinate added, according to the information from our spies in the Sand Crypsis, there is indeed a change in the Sand Crypsis, and the reliability of the information should not be low. Stranger. Just by embedding it on the puppet, it can increase the puppet's strength. The corner of Scorpion's mouth rose slightly. Interesting. His subordinate asked eagerly, Sir Scorpion, should we send some people to fight for the ores? If the Sand Crypsis is really going to take action, you won't be able to compete with them, Scorpion said calmly. Let me do it myself. His subordinate's eyes were filled with worship. Since you're personally taking action, there naturally won't be any problems. That's hard to say. Scorpion shook his head slightly. Don't you think it's too much of a coincidence that it's a treasure that's useful to the puppet masters and that it appeared at the border between the country of river and the country of wind? His subordinate was shocked. You mean this is a trap set by the Sand Crypsis? It's just a possibility. Scorpion's voice was calm. After all, I'm the biggest stain in the eyes of Sand Crypsis. Although he had some doubts, he wasn't worried. With his current strength, as long as he didn't encounter a monster like Shimizu Garashi, even if a team of Jonins came, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. His subordinate was hesitant. Speaking of which, I did hear another news. Scorpion frowned slightly. What other news? I heard that Shimizu Garashi seems to be in the Sand Crypsis now. Shimizu Garashi. Scorpion's eyes jumped wildly. What he was afraid of really happened. How could he be in the Sand Crypsis? It said that the Yandame Kazekage asked him to use Mokutan to change the environment of the country of wind. His subordinate suggested. Why don't you wait for Shimizu Garashi to leave the Sand Crypsis before snatching the ore? Scorpion was silent for a long time before he asked. Does the ore really have that effect? His subordinate replied, in order to make what he said more credible, that rebellious ninja publicly showed the power of the ore. From this point of view, it should be true. I don't know how long it will take for him to leave. If the ore enters the Sand Crypsis, even I will have a hard time snatching things from the hinterland of a big ninja village. Scorpion muttered to himself for a while and ordered, you exaggerate the role of the ore and let more people enter the ruins. His subordinate quickly responded. Yes. Sand Crypsis village at the banquet. A group of Sand Crypsis ninjas were enthusiastically flattering. Garashi-sama is so powerful that even the existence of Kyubi can be easily suppressed. And Kazekage-sama, his deep wisdom like the starry sky really makes us ashamed. Raza was indeed very proud. At that time, he agreed to Garashi using the undeveloped Mokutan as one of the conditions for participation in the war. Many people said that he was brainless behind his back, saying that he was cowardly and compromised. He even agreed to such an obvious condition. But now, being brainless has become far-sighted, and cowardly compromise has become decisive and wise. And for Garashi as the loser, no one dared to despise him. People with discerning eyes know that the person who can really decide the fate of Woodleaf is not the Naruto sitting in the Naruto building, but the boss in front of them. If he gets tired of playing the game by the rules, he can easily replace Naruto, and even subvert the rules of the ninja world is not impossible. If the boss in front of them doesn't want to play anymore and overturns the table to make new rules, what can they do? Just close the door and release the Kyubi. No one can resist. Therefore they naturally have to flatter each other, make the boss happy, and don't have any bold ideas. You are good, I am good, everyone is good, this is a harmonious world. Garashi, it's not that I want to criticize you. Raza put his arm around Garashi's shoulder and said, you went back for so long and didn't come to our Sand Crypsis. The little guys in the school miss you very much. Garashi smiled. It's rare that they still remember me. By the way, Woodleaf, do you want us to protest? Raza looked unsatisfied. You are the honorary consultant of our Sand Crypsis. If you are treated unfairly, we Sand Crypsis will not agree. The surrounding Sand Crypsis Jonin looked at him strangely. Wasn't this the proposal of the spy? Last time you said that someone's ass was crooked, why are you using it yourself? Garashi shook his head slightly. No, this is also a rare opportunity for me to cleanse my soul and truly see myself clearly. Raza of course knew that Garashi would not agree, but on the surface he still looked regretful. Garashi, you are too kind. If it was me. Forget it, if you don't have a good time in Woodleaf, the door of San Crypsis will always be open for you. A group of San Crypsis ninjas' eyes lit up, as expected of the Kazekage-sama. He easily said what they didn't dare to say. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There is no need to consider this. Chapter 345. The next day, outside the San Crypsis village. Many villagers who heard the news rushed over and looked at the figure in front of them nervously and excitedly. I heard that Garashi-sama is going to use wood release to create a forest. Can we also have rich land? A forest, this is a scene that only appears in dreams. But can the forest created by chakra really survive? This is not like fire release or water release, it can't survive without vitality. Yeah, don't just exchange for some wood when the time comes. Don't think too much. Who is Garashi-sama? He is the god of ninjas. If he says it can be done, then it can be done. Not only the villagers, but even the ninjas were holding their breath and looking ahead. Raza asked nervously, Garashi, do you still need to make some preparations such as, I let everyone use water release to moisturize the ground? Not for the time being, but after I complete the ninjutsu, I need you to pay attention to the watering. After the environmental transformation is completed, there will be no need. After saying that, Garashi unlocked the Yin seal, mobilized Dragon Vein Chakra, and instantly entered Sage Mode. Clasping his hands together, he patted the ground. Sage Mode? Would release, tree world birth. Under the drive of natural energy, the trees grew at an amazing speed. The ground surged and the trees grew wildly. In the blink of an eye, everything in sight turned into a verdant green. The entire San Crypsis village was surrounded by a forest. Seeing this miraculous scene, many villagers even knelt down and kissed the ground. This is simply a miracle given to us by Garashi-sama. This is not the kind of dry wood it can survive, a real forest with vitality. Compared to the joy of these villagers, the ninjas were more shocked by Garashi's strength. Monster, a monster from head to toe. Garashi-sama is actually made by chakra, right? Although they have heard of his strength many times, but no matter how much hearsay, it is not as good as seeing it with their own eyes. This was not a small forest, but a super large forest that surrounded the entire San Crypsis. They couldn't imagine how much chakra was consumed to create such a huge forest. Even after using this Super S-Class Super AoE ninjutsu, Garashi still didn't show any trace of fatigue on his face. This level of chakra made many ninjas who used up their chakra after 2 or 3 ninjutsu almost shed tears. Raza was also silent, recalling his battle with Ichibi. Is Shikaku really a tailed beast? Why do I feel that its chakra is not even 1/10 of Garashi's? Shushi clapped his hands and stood up. If you want to change the environment of the entire wind country, even I can't do it. But if it's just changing the surroundings of the sand village, it shouldn't be a problem. Let's go. We just need to modify the area around the village. Raza nodded repeatedly. Then his eyes widened. Wait, you want to continue now? Garashi smiled. It's not laborious, of course. I want to continue. Raza couldn't help but show an envious look. If he had this level of chakra, wouldn't it be like playing around? On this day, all the villagers of San Crypsis were happy. They successfully got rid of the title of the country with the poorest land. Although they can't compare with Woodleaf, compared with Rock Crypsis and Yunin, they have a faint trend of catching up. Hey, those idiots from Rock Crypsis and Yunin must be dumbfounded. That's right, those idiots will never understand how happy it is to hug someone's thigh. It's not shameful to hug someone's thigh. Before, the ninjas from Rock Crypsis and Yunin always ridiculed them for hugging Woodleaf's thigh. They felt ashamed at that time, but now they have figured it out. If hugging someone's thigh can make San Crypsis live a good life, then why not? Besides, they are not hugging Woodleaf's thigh. At most they are hugging Garashi's thigh, and Garashi is the honorary consultant of San Crypsis. Rounded up, they are on the same side. What's so shameful about hugging someone's thigh? After a day of rest in the Kazekage's office, Raza was very happy and laughed heartily. Ah, Garashi, I'm so happy. Thanks to you, San Crypsis can finally relax a little in the future. Garashi smiled. This was originally the agreement during the Third World War. I'm just fulfilling my promise. For you, it's fulfilling a promise, but for us, it's a gift that changes our fate. Raza joked. If you go to the street to do a popular poll, your support rate may be higher than mine. Garashi smiled. Brother Raza, you are too unconfident. In fact, everyone knows how much you have done for San Crypsis. Yes. Raza sighed. Since Gaara became the Ichibi's Jinchuriki, he hasn't returned to his room for more than half a year. Every day he sleeps alone in the living room. Let's not talk about this. By the way, Garashi, have you heard of the Stone of Grayer? Raza suddenly asked. I have heard of it. It is said that it is the power used by an ancient empire to rule the country. It has many magical effects. Brother Raza, why do you suddenly ask about this? Garashi replied calmly. You even know this, worthy of Garashi. Raza praised. We spent a lot of time looking for information before we knew the name of the ore. Garashi smiled slightly. When I was in the ninja school, I occasionally read some miscellaneous books to relax. Raza didn't care and continued. Some time ago, a ninja of our San Cripsis puppet unit defected. The capture team chased him all the way to the border of the Land of Wind and the Land of River. A battle broke out, but they accidentally fell into an ancient ruin. The traitor got the Stone of Grayer in the ruin and inlaid the stone on the puppet, so his strength increased greatly and he escaped. The pursuit team saw that the stone was so powerful and kept searching in the ruin. After finding 2 pieces of ore, they quickly came back to report. After our research, the ore should be the rumored Stone of Grayer. Although the traitor didn't know the name of the ore, he still spread the news. Of course, the traitor was actually misled by his own preconceived ideas. In addition to strengthening the puppet, the Stone of Grayer is also very useful for ordinary ninjas like us. Oh, so that's the case. Garashi nodded pretentiously. In fact, he knew much more than Raza. After all, this ancient ruin was deliberately created by him to attract the scorpions. Unlike Hanzo, it's too difficult to find the scorpions who don't have a fixed residence. The best way is to make them take the initiative to appear. And this ruin is used as bait to attract the scorpions. Of course, the ruin itself is fake, but the ore is real. It's some of the ore he collected over the years. In addition to attracting the scorpions, it's also to attract the clan guarding the Stone of Grayer. After all, those few pieces of ore have limited use for him. Instead of keeping them in his hand, it's better to use them to catch a big fish. Chapter 346. Since this Stone of Grayer is so important, why did you tell me about it, Brother Raza? Garashi asked, puzzled. Haha, I treat you, Garashi, as one of my own. Raza laughed loudly. In front of you, San Cripsis has no secrets. Garashi was touched. Brother Raza, haha, don't worry about it. Raza waved his hand. Even if I didn't tell you, the news spread by the traitor will attract others. Garashi nodded slightly and asked, Then Brother Raza, when do you plan to send people to look for the ore? Raza laughed. No hurry, I've already sent people to guard the ruins. If you want to come out, hand over 1/3 of the Stone of Grayer. Is this a protection fee? Seeing the strange look in Garashi's eyes, Raza coughed twice. Since the ruins are in the Wind Country, of course they belong to the San Cripsis. It's not too much to ask for a protection fee. Garashi was puzzled. But didn't you say that the ruins are at the border of the Wind Country and the River Country? Is it? Raza was stunned for a moment. Then he sighed compassionately and said, The country of the river is weak. The precious minerals may bring disaster instead. For the stability of the neighboring country, I can only reluctantly be a bully. Garashi's mouth twitched slightly. Then it's really hard for you, Brother Raza? Yes, it's really hard for me. Raza shook his head and sighed. Then he said, Get ready to go. Garashi nodded slightly, then asked in a daze, Brother Raza, you're going too? Raza's face was solemn. After all, the news out there is a treasure that can greatly improve the strength of a puppet master. It might attract Scorpion. I'm really worried about other people going. No matter what, my magnetic shield can still slightly restrain him. Scorpion? Garashi's expression also became serious. He's not an easy enemy to deal with. Brother Raza, have you collected any information about him? Raza shook his head slightly. He's more cautious than we thought. We haven't found any traces of him in the past few years. The reason why we allowed the traitor to spread the news as he wished was to lure him out. Garashi nodded in realization. I was wondering why your reaction was so slow. So this was your plan. If we meet Scorpio in the ruins, I'll have to trouble you to help me take him down, Garashi. Raza was no longer as pretentious as when he first became a Kazekage. Would it be embarrassing to ask Garashi to capture the traitor of the San Cripsis? That was impossible. Garashi nodded solemnly. I will. Rock Cripsis Village, conference room. He could smell a sour smell from afar. Isn't it just a forest? I'm not envious. That's right, what is there to be proud of? Those bastards from San Cripsis are just country bumpkins who have never seen the world. A group of rock Crypsis ninjas gritted their teeth. Jealous? Of course they were envious. The essence of war is for benefits, and for the ninja world the most long-term benefit is territory. The Land of Fire occupies the most fertile territory in the ninja world, so it's the center of every war. Although the Land of Wind has the largest territory among the 5 major countries, no one wants it, so naturally no one covets it. But now it's different. The desert has become an oasis, a high-quality location that even they are envious of. The most hateful thing is that rock Crypsis paid so much in the war, but in the end they didn't get anything. Sand Crypsis, on the other hand, hugged the thigh and completed the counterattack. This kind of stark contrast made them so jealous that they were about to be unrecognizable. Well, let's put the oasis aside for now. No matter how envious you are, can you kidnap Shimizu Garashi and give him to rock Crypsis? Anoki's voice was stern, but his heart was sighing. That man is like the nemesis of the rock village. Even the greening of the sand village's environment is a huge blow to their morale. Today's topic is about the ruins that appeared on the border of the Land of Wind and the Land of River. According to the latest news, in addition to strengthening the puppets, the ores in the ruins are also of great help to us ninjas. Inferring from this information, the ores that appeared in the ruins are very likely to be the legendary Stone of Grayer. Hearing the words of the Tsuchikage, a group of Jonin discussed. Whether it's the Stone of Grayer or not, just the fact that it can strengthen my puppets means that the Sand Village must not get their hands on it. Although we have obtained some Stone of Grayer from wandering caravans before, it's not useful if the number is too small, but this time, it's very likely to be a complete vein. We can't let Sand Crypsis monopolize it. They had done their homework before coming here, so they naturally knew the value of the Stone of Grayer. Tsuchikage-sama, let's act quickly. However, Anoki frowned. Sand Crypsis is of course not terrible, but I heard that Shimizu Garashi is with them. Hearing this, everyone was quiet. Indeed, if they meet Shimizu Garashi in the ruins, who knows if he won't kill them. With Shimizu Garashi's strength, he can easily slaughter all of them. At this time, Han suddenly said, Tsuchikage-sama, I think that as long as we don't take the initiative to provoke him, Shimizu Garashi won't care about us at all. Anoki frowned. You want me to bet on his attitude with the lives of my subordinates? It's not a bet, Tsuchikage-sama. Han sighed. Do you really think that our rock village's barrier and military power can stop Qingshui Shushi? Anoki's face was very ugly and he didn't speak. We can live in peace not because of the protection of the village, but because of the order of the shinobi world. Shimizu Garashi is a person who maintains order. As long as we don't break the rules, he won't take the initiative to attack us. Han said firmly, so, our enemy is not Shimizu Garashi, not even Woodleaf, but the rising Sand Crypsis. When Sand Crypsis is getting stronger, if we don't take action because we are afraid of Shimizu Garashi's power, we will gradually fall behind the Sand Crypsis, and finally be defeated by the enemy we don't pay attention to. Anoki was in a trance. Sand Crypsis? Since he was humiliated by Uchiha Madara and Woodleaf, he secretly vowed in his heart that Rock Crypsis must surpass Woodleaf. But now he was told that Rock Crypsis is not even qualified to be Woodleaf's opponent. For him this is undoubtedly a big blow. But he has to admit that the threat of Sand Crypsis put forward by Han is indeed very reasonable. Woodleaf occupies the best territory in the shinobi world, and targeting Rock Crypsis is not good for them, not to mention that Woodleaf's attitude has always been docile and peaceful in the shinobi world. But Sand Crypsis is different. Almost every Kazekage is a very ambitious person. Even the 4th Kazekage, who seems to be timid, is most likely a poisonous snake hiding its poisonous fangs, so he must not relax his vigilance. Well, maybe I should change my mind. Anoki sighed as if he suddenly aged a lot. Han, take some people with you. Yes. Chapter 347. In the desert full of yellow sand, Raza led the team of Sand Crypsis and ran side by side with Garashi. Didn't Elder Chio follow us? Garashi asked as he ran. After all, we may encounter Sasori. It's better for Elder Chio not to participate in this operation. Raza shook his head. That's true. Garashi nodded slightly. My spies in Rock Crypsis sent news that Rock Crypsis also took action. Raza sneered. I thought they would be afraid of you, Garashi, and hide in Rock Crypsis. Garashi shook his head dumbfounded. Am I so terrible? Raza sighed. Strength makes people afraid. In front of you, Garashi, who can easily control their life and death, of course they will be afraid. At this moment, Pakura asked in surprise. Kazekage-sama, didn't you say someone was guarding the entrance of the ruins? Raza said without hesitation. Yes, I asked Marky to guard the entrance with a team of people. Kazekage-sama, look ahead. Huh? Have they arrived? Raza looked up ahead but found that there was no one at the entrance. Seeing this, Raza shouted. Marky, where are you? Kazekage-sama, we are here. Marky's weak voice came from the distance. Hearing the voice, Raza rushed over. Then, he saw Marky and several other ninjas with pig heads and torn clothes lying on the ground weakly like beggars. How did you become like this? Raza asked with his eyes wide open. We guarded the entrance as you ordered. At first there weren't many people so they could only follow our rules. But later, I don't know what happened, the number of people suddenly increased. Marky said with grievance. They asked me to get out of the way because they had more people. If I didn't get out, they would beat me. The rest of the ninjas also wailed. That group of people said that if it weren't for the fact that the ruins were in the Wind Country and they didn't want to make a big deal out of it, we would have been killed long ago. They also said that you are a retard. These bastards. Raza gritted his teeth and cursed a few times. Then he was a little puzzled. It's only useful for improving the puppet. It shouldn't be able to attract so many people, right? Marky shook his swollen pig head and groaned, Kazekage-sama, your information is outdated. Now the news is that the ore can improve the strength of a ninja in all aspects, and it can also heal internal injuries and restore the body's function to youth. Hearing this, Raza's expression changed slightly. The news about the Stone of Grayer has spread? Although the ancient ruins was located at the border of the Country of Wind, it was not too far away from the Country of Fire and the Country of Earth. It could be said that it was located in the middle of the three countries. Yunnan and Kirin were too far away from the ancient ruins, and Woodleaf was relatively easygoing. If it was just N or that could strengthen the puppets, they probably wouldn't go through the trouble to stop him. So, at the beginning he was only prepared to deal with the rock crypsis. But now it's different. With the rumored role of the Stone of Grayer, maybe it will attract the ninjas of the three villages. Thinking of this, Raza didn't care about the wounded. Marky, you find a place to hide, and the others get ready to go in with me. Find a place to hide? Marky said to himself in a trance. He didn't even leave a medical ninja for them? Garashi suddenly said, Raza Dage, I won't go with you later. Didn't you say? Raza said and quickly understood. I know you are worried about encountering Woodleaf's exploration team? Garashi nodded. Then you are the one who should be careful. Raza said and laughed. We should be careful. Shushi also laughed, then said seriously, if we meet Scorpion, I'll make a move. Thank you. On the other side in the ancient ruins, Aizen was wearing the Shinigami mask and wandering around the ruins. He naturally didn't want to explore the ancient ruins. After all, he was the one who created the so-called ancient ruins. This is not it, this is not it. With the help of Satoshi's soul sealed in the Shinigami mask, he quietly read the minds of the other explorers. Although he knows from the memory of his previous life that there is a clan guarding the Grayer mine on this continent, it's impossible to find them with just this information. Even if they stand in front of him, he may not be able to recognize them. Therefore, he needs the ability to read minds to help him identify the target. Of course, the premise is that someone from that clan will take the bait. When I get the Stone of Grayer, I can punch Woodleaf and kick Yunnan. Legend has it that the ancient people relied on the Stone of Grayer to build a huge empire. If I can get it. I heard that Shimizu Garashi is the most handsome man in the world. What kind of messy thoughts are these? Aizen's mouth twitched under the mask, especially when he saw that the person who was thinking about him was a big man. He almost couldn't hold back his killing intent. At this moment, a soft and monotonous voice flashed through his mind. There is someone who can maintain such calmness in the ancient ruins. Aizen looked in the direction of the fluctuation, and he saw a tall man calmly walking towards him. Is this the mask Sasori made for himself? Aizen narrowed his eyes and smiled. Although I didn't find the clan member, at least I caught Sasori. As if aware of his gaze, Sasori calmly turned around. This guy is... Sasori frowned. Was the other party observing him? However, he didn't want to have a conflict with the other party. The guy hiding under the mask gave him a very dangerous feeling. After a moment of silence, Sasori turned around and left. Aizen stood there quietly with a smile on his face. You can't explore quietly like this. Let me find something for you to do. Seeing that the other party didn't follow, Sasori was slightly relieved. Then he looked at the Stone of Grayer in his hand with a burning gaze. This thing is really useful. In addition to strengthening the puppet, the stone of Greyer contains a strong vitality. It will help me a lot with my regenerative nucleus. This time I really made the right choice. This is the reason why he didn't want to have a conflict with the masked man. He came here to search for treasures, not to pick a fight. Moreover, he didn't want to fight now. After collecting the stone of Greyer and upgrading himself and his puppet to the limit, not to mention the masked man, he would even have the courage to challenge Shimizu Garashi. Chapter 348. In the ruins, a man wearing a monocle was leading a dozen people in armor to search around the ruins. "Hyde-sama, is this the place?" Camilla, a female knight in the team, asked. "It should be around here, but why can't I find it?" Hyde frowned and carefully took out a book from the inside of his clothes. According to Gray's book, the mineral vein is in the deepest part of the ruins. Logically speaking, we should be in the deepest part of the ruins. Could there be some kind of trap? At this moment, a voice came from behind them. "Hien, the book of Gray you mentioned is the one in their hands?" "Yes, Nord-sama." Hearing this voice, Hyde and the others turned around. They saw a group of people dressed as ninjas looking at them with evil intentions. Beside those ninjas, there was a man who looked like an ordinary villager. It was this man who mentioned the name of the Book of Gray. "You know about the Book of Gray?" Hyde's face became gloomy. "It seems that I can't let you live." Hearing what he said, all the ninjas laughed. "You can't let us live? With those guys in armor behind you? Idiot. Samurai are outdated. Some samurai dare to talk to us ninjas like this." "Ninjas? Samurai?" Hyde pushed his glasses and sneered. "Are you misunderstanding something? They are not stupid beings, but armored knights who have mastered the power of the ancient times. Humph. Since you are so eager to die, don't blame us. I should be the one saying that." Hien heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the two sides were clashing as he had expected. He had originally come to investigate the ruins, but he had unexpectedly discovered the Book of Greyer in the hands of these people, as well as their greed for the mineral veins. That's why he deliberately lured these ninjas here. He wanted to use the power of these ninjas to get rid of the other party. Hien thought, "Although I don't know where you got the Book of Gray, for the sake of peace, I can only do this. When these ninjas get the Book of Greyer, I'll lie to them and say that there's a secret code in the Book of Greyer, and let them give me the Book of Greyer to decipher. Then I'll take the opportunity to destroy the book. So even if they kill me in anger, it'll be worth it." Thinking of this, Hien felt as if his entire being had been sublimated. Compared to world peace, his personal life and death were insignificant. Then, he heard a painful wail coming from beside him. "Impossible, these people don't have chakra. Monster. These people are monsters." Hien looked up and saw that the ninjas had been trampled under their feet, and the ones stepping on them were all kinds of strange orcs, bat orcs, ape orcs, werewolves and so on. Seeing those monsters, Hien felt his hands and feet turn cold. You have already mastered part of the Stone of Greyer's power." Speaking of this, his whole body became dispirited. "No wonder these ninjas are not your opponents. To be precise, no one in this world is your opponent." The ninja who was being trampled by the orcs was at a loss. Although these monsters were powerful, they couldn't possibly be invincible, right? Was this guy an idiot? "Ah." Hyde laughed twice and then his eyes sharpened. "Who are you? How do you know about the Book of Greyer?" Hien changed his strategy, and his eyes were sincere as he advised, "Please stop, the Stone of Greyer's power is too strong, it will only bring disaster to the world." "You don't want to talk?" Hyde laughed. "Take him away first, there will be a way to make him talk later." Hien was still insistent. "Since you have read the Book of Greyer, you should know." "The Book of Greyer? I seem to have heard something interesting." An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Everyone turned their heads and saw a tall man walking out from the shadows. "So there is only one person." They were a little nervous at first, but when they saw that there was only one person, they relaxed. "Another ninja?" Hyde frowned slightly. "Looks like there are quite a lot of bugs in this ruin. Camilla, go and kill him." "Yes." Hearing the order, Camilla, who was flying in the air in her bat orc form, quickly glided down. Bat orc? This tall man was Scorpion's avatar. When he saw Camilla, his eyes flashed with admiration. Such a rare material, it would be a pity not to make it into a puppet. "Are you so scared by my power that you even forgot to run?" Camilla sneered in her heart and slapped down with her sharp claws. Clang. Camilla only felt a sharp pain in her claws. It did not feel like she had slapped a human body, but like she had slapped steel. Taking advantage of the moment when she was distracted, Scorpion reached out his right hand, grabbed her neck and lifted her up. Camilla's eyes widened and her legs subconsciously kicked randomly in the air, but when she met his eyes she suddenly did not dare to move. What kind of gaze is this? Looking into his eyes, Camilla felt her scalp tingle for some reason. She had seen many gazes, gazes that coveted her beauty, gazes that feared her power, gazes that hated her for killing, but she had never seen such a gaze that seemed to want to slice her up and study her and keep her forever. In the distance, a group of knights cried out in shock. How is this possible? Camilla has 10 times the strength of a human after transforming. Even rocks would be crushed by her claws. It was not that they had never seen ninjas, on the contrary they had fought with ninjas many times, but those ninjas were as weak as the trash under their feet. Hyde's face was gloomy. Camilla, use the power of the Stone of Greyer. Hearing the order, Camilla forced her mouth open, and a beam of light shot out from her throat. However, Scorpion's empty left hand slapped the beam of light to the other side, and a rock wall instantly collapsed. Seeing the collapsed rock wall, Hyde's pupils suddenly shrank. The power of the Stone of Greyer has not expired. Then how did he do it? Is this guy really a human? Seeing the movement caused by the beam of light, Scorpion whispered, although these are rare materials, there are too many people in the ruins, it's better to get rid of them as soon as possible. This bastard wants to kill us? Hyde was frightened. Quickly, let's kill him together. These knights were all orphans that were brainwashed by him, and without any hesitation they rushed towards Scorpion. Some used the Stone of Greyer to transform into orcs, some used the Stone of Greyer to shoot air cannons, and some even used sound wave attacks and illusion attacks. However, these were useless against Scorpion. Puppetry, mechanical light shield seal. Using his puppets as a medium, he turned the chakra into a light shield that resisted all attacks. No matter how they attacked, they could not cause any damage to Scorpion in the light shield. That's enough, it's my turn. Drill, human body manipulation. The chakra thread unknowingly wrapped around several of them, and then controlled their bodies to kill their companions. The rest of the knights were completely unprepared, and in just a few seconds, more than half of them were killed or injured by their companions. Bastard, what are you doing? Hyde was shocked and angry. Are you betraying me? However, the group of knights who were slaughtering their companions also collapsed. Hyde-sama, my body is out of control. What the hell is going on? Looking at Scorpion, who was calmly moving his fingers in the light shield, Hyde quickly reacted, it's you. The ninjas who escaped couldn't help but ridicule, idiot, can't you even see that the Lord is a puppeteer? With that, he was a little surprised. However, without controlling the puppets, he can make the enemies kill each other with the chakra thread. This puppeteer is really powerful. Puppeteer? Hyde's forehead was blue. It shouldn't be like this, how can a ninja be so strong? Yen on the side was also dumbfounded. Didn't the ancestral teachings say that the power of the Stone of Greyer is invincible? I understand these people must not know how to use the power of the Stone of Greyer, it must be. Chapter 349. Ridiculous. Sasori wasn't happy. Even if it was him, he only dared to say that he had the courage to challenge that man after reaching his limit. But what about these idiots? They said they were invincible just because they mastered the power of Sumors. Where did they put him? Where did they put Shimizu Garashi? Just as he was about to end this boring battle, he heard someone shouting behind him. Hoshi, hand over the Stone of Greyer. Pakura, do you really think you're Shimizu Garashi after praising the hero of San Crypsis? Of course I'm not as good as Garashi, he's the real hero, but you don't seem to be at such a gauge. Why are there more people coming? How many waves has it been? Although he was complaining in his heart, Hyde rekindled his hope. With more people he might have a chance to escape. Looking at the newcomers, the wandering ninjas who were beaten at the beginning exclaimed. It's Rock Crypsis, the one leading the team. Hoshi is one of the top 5 jonins in Rock Crypsis. It's San Crypsis chasing them. It's Pakura, Scorch Release. Seeing the scene in the cave, the ninjas from Rock Crypsis and San Crypsis were a little surprised. Is that puppeteer using chakra to manipulate the enemy? Although they were a little surprised, they didn't think much about it. San Crypsis is indeed the strongest in puppeteer technique, but that doesn't mean that no one from other villages or lone ninjas can do it. The only thing that puzzled them was that this tall man was quite proficient in puppeteer techniques. Ordinary puppeteers can't manipulate living people. San Crypsis and Rock Crypsis? Sasori frowned slightly. With his strength, it's not difficult to deal with these people. But the problem is that he can't use his full strength. and if he delays for a few minutes the other members of Rock Crypsis and Sand Crypsis will come. Aizen, who was secretly observing the three sides, was surprised by this scene. He used genjutsu to control the five senses to affect the vision of these ninjas, making them unconsciously follow the route he planned, making the ninjas on both sides discover several pieces of grayer stone at the same time, and then lead the Rock Crypsis to escape in the direction of Sasori. However, what he did not expect was that Scorpion, whom he had secretly marked, would actually meet with the other two groups. Especially that ordinary-looking man who looked like a villager who had strayed into this place. The thoughts he read contained the information he wanted. Oh, what a pleasant surprise. Aizen's mood was subtle. Buy one get one free. Sasori is my lucky star. Seeing that the two newcomers didn't seem to intend to fight, Hyde became anxious and waved the book in his hand and shouted, "This is the Book of Grayer, it can guide you to the Grayer mineral vein." Before he could finish his sentence, the Book of Grayer in his hand was hooked by Scorpion's chakra thread. The ninjas on both sides were skeptical of Hyde's words, but seeing the tall puppeteer make a move, they couldn't help it. Regardless of whether it's true or not, let's grab it first. Earth release, rock collapse. Scorch release, steam kill. The rocks on the ceiling of the grotto collapsed in an instant. The fireballs that floated around like ghosts flew towards Scorpion amidst the falling rocks. Since we decided to fight, then let's do it quickly. Although he didn't want to expose his identity, a normal puppeteer wouldn't be the opponent of these two teams. Thinking of this, Scorpion used his light shield and took out a scroll as fast as he could. This scroll looks a bit familiar. Pakura thought, her beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Because Scorpion summoned the Kazekage. You are Scorpion. Scorpion was too lazy to pay attention to her and directly controlled the Kazekage to use Shigure sand. All of a sudden, iron sand gushed out from the surroundings like a wave. These iron sand then turned into needles as thin as a cow's hair. What was even more shocking was that these needles seemed to be flickering with a dark green fluorescence. Then these needles rushed down like a raging wave. Hikari was startled by this movement. Use Earth Release. At this critical moment, the ninjas on both sides didn't care about each other. Those who could use Earth Release hurriedly used it to defend, and those who couldn't use other jutsus to block. After barely blocking the first wave of attacks, Hokage was relieved and immediately yelled angrily. This guy is the Sandaime Kazekage, isn't he? How did he become a puppet? What the hell are you guys doing in Sand Crypsis? At first he only felt that the other party's puppet was familiar, but when he used the signature magnet release, he was shocked to recognize the identity of the puppet. The Kazekage who mysteriously disappeared before the Third World War and even became the fuse of the war appeared in front of them in this form. Don't ask so much, let's deal with the crisis in front of us first. Pakura warned seriously. Hikari, we must join forces and try to defend as much as possible until the Kazekage or your reinforcements arrive. Is that really necessary? Hikari thought that Pakura was bragging about the strength of the Kazekage. No matter how strong the Kazekage is, he won't be the opponent of so many of us. He calmed down by now. The Kazekage is very strong, but there's no way to retain his combat experience after being turned into a puppet. That guy is controlling the Kazekage as a puppet master, so it should be difficult for him to use his full strength. Moreover, they have 40 or 50 people on both sides, so they have an absolute advantage in numbers. Do you think we have the advantage in numbers? Pakura looked dignified. Instead of saying we have the advantage, it's better to say we are surrounded by him. Hikari was puzzled, but then he saw Sasori take out another scroll. In the next moment he finally understood what Pakura meant. Puppets, all of them are puppets. Gazing at the dense puppet army, Fiery Light couldn't help but curse. What the F***ck? Aren't puppet masters only able to control 10 puppets at most? Pakura shook her head. He's not an ordinary puppeteer, he's the strongest puppeteer genius in the history of Sand Crypsis, Sasori. Sasori? Hikari recalled the information. He shouldn't look like this. Wait, are we fighting puppets controlled by him? Yes. Pakura took a deep breath. Moreover, he transformed himself into a puppet. Even if we find his real body, he won't have the weakness of ordinary puppeteers. Transformed himself into a puppet? Hikari took a deep breath and immediately cursed. Why should we, Rock Crypsis, share the responsibility of Sand Crypsis? Then you can beg for mercy and see if he will let you go. Pakura sneered. Hikari poked his head out from behind the multiple walls, just in time to meet the second wave of attack of Sasori's puppet army. Fire release, lightning release, wind release. All kinds of jutsus exploded together, shaking the cave, and the multiple walls were almost shattered. Huoguang retracted his head and face covered in dust. Too savage. Chapter 350. One person can control so many puppets, where did he get so much chakra? What a monster. Pyro retreated and suddenly asked, "Why are you so familiar with him? Have you fought with him before?" Pakura said concisely, 3 years ago. Pyro's eyes were full of doubt. How did you survive at that time? Pakura glanced at him, because my teammate at that time was Garashi. Oh, then it's not strange. Pyro suddenly realized and then froze. Wait, this guy's eyes are full of contempt, right? Is he disdaining me because I'm not as good as Shimizu Garashi? He wanted to argue, but Pyro sadly found that he couldn't compare with others, even when Shimizu Garashi was 12 years old. Seeing them not coming out, Sasori hesitated for a moment. Should he leave now? This thought only flashed through his mind for a moment before it was quickly rejected. If he stopped and left now, those people would most likely follow him and pester him again. One had to know that it took time for him to retrieve and summon the puppets. Going back and forth would waste a lot of his time. Instead of gambling on the other side's thoughts, it's better to get rid of them as soon as possible and take the initiative in his own hands. Thinking of this, Sasori silently increased the output of chakra. In the corner, the remaining knights and wandering ninjas were hiding together, trembling. They temporarily forgot their hatred and tried their best to resist the aftermath of the battle. It's not that they didn't want to escape, but they didn't dare to move at all. The aftermath of the battle required them to devote all their energy to resist. If they accidentally moved from the edge to the front, they estimated that they would disappear from this world in an instant. What kind of power is this? Hien entered a state of brain shutdown and muttered to himself, "It can let one person control hundreds of golems, and each golem is so powerful." Hyde also doubted his goal. Even if I get the complete power of Stone Greyer, can I really beat these ninjas? You can. A female knight encouraged, "I heard that the most powerful ninja is the Kage, and the one who defeated us killed the Kazekage, so he must be the most powerful ninja. When Hyde-sama masters the power of Stone Greyer, you can surpass him." Although Nord was scared to the point of tears, he couldn't help but ridicule them when he heard their conversation. Ignorant fool, how can he be the most powerful ninja? The most powerful one is of course the god of ninja, Shimizu Garashi-sama. The god of ninja? Hyde couldn't help but ask, what qualifications does he have to call himself a god? The god of shinobi isn't a self-proclaimed title, it's recognized by the shinobi world. How powerful is Shimizu Sushi-sama? Nord muttered. In fact, he didn't know how strong Shimizu Sushi-sama was. After all, how could a lone ninja like him have the opportunity to see the god of shinobi in action? However, this doesn't stop bragging. Anyway, these guys are even more ignorant than him. Shimizu Garashi-sama once froze a sea, he can destroy a mountain range with a wave of his hand, he can make the earth crack open a canyon, he can make the magma gush out of the ground. Hearing this, the group of knights broke out in cold sweat. This is too terrifying. So there is such a powerful ninja? Or is there such a powerful god? At this time there was a sudden scream in the field. The multiple earth walls reinforced by rock crypsis and sand crypsis ninjas finally collapsed. Exposed to Sasori's sight, they were soon attacked by a wave of release jutsu. The other ninjutsu were fine, but the iron sand needles mixed with the release jutsu were hard to guard against, and these needles were also contaminated with poison, causing many ninjas who only had a scratch on their skin to howl and fall down. That's it. Sasori's eyes were cold, and the last round of iron sand rain came like a wave. Magnetic evasion, golden sand wave. With a low shout, a huge wave of golden sand wave collided with the iron sand wave. Great, it's Kazekage-sama. Pakura breathed a sigh of relief, and then hurriedly used the medical scroll to treat the wounded. Although she can use scorch release to protect herself and melt the iron sand, it is too difficult to protect others. The Kazekage is here, Han, you come quickly. There was a flash of worry between Hoshi's eyebrows. He was not worried about Sand Crypsis bullying him, but he was worried about the ownership of the Book of Greyer. Then he was woken up by a series of screams and wails. Yes, treat the wounded. Hoshi hurriedly took out the precious medical scroll, and while opening the scroll, he subconsciously looked at Sand Crypsis. His eyes were full of envy. Although they also have medical scrolls, most of them are war trophies. Unlike Sand Crypsis, as an ally of Woodleaf, they have an open supply. In the corner. More people. Is there an end to this? Hyde sighed, but this time he can understand it the most. After all, such a big movement, it's hard not to attract enemies, right? He can even perceive that there are many people watching in the distance, but they are afraid of the fluctuations of the battle here, so they don't dare to come over. Boom. The stalemate between iron sand and gold sand finally decided the winner, and the result was that the iron sand was suppressed and collapsed. I didn't expect that the fourth Kazekage would surpass the Sandaime, who is known as the strongest Kazekage. Sasori's voice was a little surprised. My strength is far less than the Sandaime, it's just that your control can't exert the strength of the Sandaime. Raza said modestly. Oh, as the Kazekage, you are a hypocrite. At this time, a laugh came from far and near. Haha, yes, our Kazekage-sama is a hypocrite. Hearing this voice, Hoshi, who has been eating lemons, finally felt relieved. Kazekage, Gobi's Jinchuriki. Sasori's heart kept sinking, such a lineup made him feel pressure. Han, who had just arrived, was about to say a few more words when he suddenly saw a puppet in front of him. This is the Sandaime Kazekage? Wait, who the hell is this guy? Hoshi explained, the opponent is the Sand Crypsis's rebel ninja, Sasori of the Red Sand. Sasori of the Red Sand. Han was surprised and suddenly wondered, Sand Crypsis's rebel ninja, why are you joining in the fun? Hoshi sighed, he didn't want to. Sasori of the Red Sand has the Book of Greyer, and it is said that it is related to the Greyer mine. Han's eyes flashed and then he was silent again. Waiting for Raza to defeat Sasori, and then snatching the loot seems to be a good idea, but in the end he rejected this idea. As he persuaded that Tsuchikage before, Shimizu Garashi is a reasonable person who abides by the rules. If he snatches the Book of Greyer from the Sand Crypsis, Shimizu Garashi shouldn't do anything to him. But if he snatches the loot from the Kazekage, then the nature is different and he still has some concerns. Kazekage, let's defeat him together and other things can be discussed later. Chapter 351. Raza was surprised. He was prepared to be robbed and threatened, but he didn't expect that Han would join hands with him. Don't look at me like that. Han coldly snorted. This guy hit one of our Rock Village's people. No one? Ahem, except during times of war, no one can injure our people without paying a price. Raza was silent for a moment. Pakura, give Rock Crypsis some of the medic scrolls. Yes. Pakura naturally wouldn't refuse, after all, Rock Crypsis was implicated by them. This is what you want to give, I won't thank Sand Crypsis. Although he said so, Han still felt relieved. He couldn't tell others about his concern for Shimizu Garashi. If Raza didn't give him the medic scrolls, his actions today would have attracted a lot of criticism. Although he didn't care much, it would still save him a lot of trouble. Oh, I think your thanks will dirty my ears. Raza sneered. While they were mocking each other, Scorpion, who was regarded as a turtle in a jar, suddenly moved. However, his target wasn't Raza or Han, but Hyde and his subordinates who were hiding in the corner. Hyde, who was hiding in the corner and watching the show, was stunned when he was caught. I'm just a piece of trash. Scorpion didn't care about their reaction, his chakra thread reached into their clothes like tentacles. In the next moment, more than a dozen pieces of Greyer ore were taken out from Hyde and the knights. Seeing this, the people in the distance couldn't believe it. They only got 2 or 3 pieces at most, but this group of people got more than a dozen pieces. There are so many Greyer ore, it seems that the Book of Greyer is real. Pyro shouted in surprise. Han, Scorpion took the book from them. However, Scorpion didn't care about the gradually blazing gazes around him. Instead, he walked out of his vest and threw a piece of ore into his mouth in front of everyone. He chewed it a few times and swallowed it down. Seeing this scene, those who didn't know that Scorpion had transformed them into puppets almost popped their eyes out. This guy is eating ore? He really isn't human. Raza and Han naturally could not sit back and watch him increase his strength. After Scorpion ate the first ore, they attacked him at the same time. However, they had overlooked one point: Scorpion was no longer human. Seeing the two attacking, Scorpion's lower jaw opened like a mechanism. Then, it opened its bloody mouth and swallowed all the ores in one gulp. After chewing the stone of Greyer, Scorpion's aura suddenly skyrocketed. The protective shield, which was originally just a small circle, quickly expanded, and actually bounced off Raza and the other 2 who were rushing over. Scorpion, on the other hand, stood quietly at the same spot. From time to time, a materialized chakra would escape from his ears and nose. Although it's a bit wasteful, I don't have any other choice in this situation. After stabilizing their bodies, Raza and Han's eyes were solemn. In the records there were two ways to use the Stone of Grayer. The first was to transform their bodies like the beast men, using the Yang release chakra within the ores to take effect. It was similar to how the Autumn Path clan used the Yang release chakra to multiply their bodies. The second was to wear it on the body, imperceptibly enhance vitality and heal internal injuries. For the weak, of course, using the first method to temporarily enhance their strength is better, but for them the second effect is the most important. However, Scorpion, relying on the fact that he's no longer a human, developed a third way to use the ores. One must know that the essence of a ninja's battle is Chakra's battle. And now, Scorpion, who has eaten more than a dozen Stone of Grayer, has crushed them in the aspect of chakra. This level of chakra makes me feel like I'm facing Garashi. Alas, I didn't pay attention and let a kitten turn into a big tiger. However, the two of them were actually not that afraid. On the one hand, Scorpion is a puppeteer, and the strength of a puppeteer mainly comes from the puppets. It's just that the enhancement of chakra doesn't have much effect on the puppeteer. On the other hand, they also saw that Scorpion's state won't last long. Of course, Scorpion was also aware of his own situation, so he didn't attack Raza or Han, but targeted the injured and the ninjas they brought. Red secret technique, 100 puppets drill. Although the enhancement of chakra didn't substantially enhance the attributes of the puppets, it also greatly improved the performance of the puppets in all aspects. For example, they became more flexible in dodging. Seeing hundreds of puppets rushing toward the ninjas they brought, Raza and Han's face changed greatly. While resisting Scorpion's attack, they shouted loudly, "Get away! Get away! I won't let you go easily." Scorpion controlled hundreds of puppets and used the 5-attribute combination ninjutsu without any obstruction. Magnet release, golden sand waterfall. Raza didn't dare to neglect, and in an instant he summoned a big waterfall of golden sand between the two sides. Boiling release, steam impact. Han compressed the steam in his body and then burst out in an instant. The fierce collision of the golden sand and iron sand, the impact of the boiling release and the 5-element release continued to erupt in this cave space, causing the surrounding rock walls to constantly collapse and crack, faintly showing signs of collapse. There were also the ninjas of Sand Crypsis and Rock Crypsis. While retreating, they didn't forget to use ninjutsu to fight back. For a while, the scene became extremely chaotic. It was like two armies were at war. The world of ninjas is terrible. I want to go home. The knight brought by Hyde collapsed and cried. However, Hyde was firm in his belief. Even these powerful guys want to compete for the Stone of Grayer. It means that my idea is right. These two guys are really difficult to deal with. Scorpion's brain was spinning rapidly, and from the corner of his eye, he saw the surrounding rock walls constantly shaking and cracking, and suddenly an idea came to him. Since you don't want me to leave, then all of you will stay here with me. Although ninjas are powerful, they are still mortal in nature. If they really encounter a large-scale collapse, few people here can survive. But he and his puppets are harder than iron, and they don't even need to breathe. Even if they are buried underground, there will be no impact. Thinking of this, Scorpion no longer hesitated and controlled hundreds of puppets to use various large-scale ninjutsu to bombard the surrounding rock walls. The rock walls that were originally trembling violently collapsed in an instant, and then triggered a more intense chain reaction. Seeing this situation, Raza and Han quickly reacted. This guy wants to sink the ruins. We absolutely can't let him succeed. However, the attack range of the puppets was too large, and the two of them couldn't protect it at all. Soon, under Scorpion's all-out attack, huge cracks appeared on the rock walls and the top of the cave, and like a spider web, it quickly spread across the entire rock surface. The surrounding people, as well as the explorers who were watching the show in the distance, screamed in horror and despair. Not good, the ruins are going to collapse. It's over, we will all be crushed to death. Garashi, who was watching the show in the dark, finally stood up. It seems that it's almost my turn. Chapter 352. Everyone was running for their lives, trying to escape from the exit before the ruins completely collapsed. However, their speed of escape couldn't keep up with the speed of the cracks spreading. Finally, the ceiling of the grotto completely collapsed. Raza roared, "Hurry up and use Earth Release to protect yourselves. Those who don't use Earth Release should try to hide with those who do." While speaking, he also summoned a large wave of golden sand to block above everyone, hoping to play a cushioning role. But even so, he still didn't have much confidence. When he entered the ruins, he knew that this ruin was located hundreds of meters deep underground. If it completely collapsed, the impact would be no less than a meteorite. He really didn't have the confidence to protect others. Even he was like this, not to mention the rest of the small forces and lone ninjas. They couldn't imagine any possibility of survival. Under their despairing gazes, a tall and imposing figure appeared in midair. Immortal art, Mokutan, Tree of Life. With this light shout, a seed broke out of the ground in the middle, and with an unimaginable speed, it completed the leap from a bud to a giant tree. Thick tree trunks supported the ruins, and the vast canopy caught the falling rocks. Countless tough vines, like roots, pierced deeply into the rock walls and quickly spread underground, connecting the broken rock strata with the intact rock strata. Those who were lying on the ground in the squatting position with their hands on their heads found that the surroundings suddenly became quiet. They subconsciously touched their heads with their hands, and when they found that there was no pain, they raised their heads in fear. Then they saw a miraculous scene. In the center of the originally empty ground, a supergiant tree with a diameter of more than 10 meters suddenly appeared. It lifted the collapsed ground with the momentum of a single tree supporting the sky, and the green vines like a woven giant net caught the broken rocks. Is this a miracle? Looking at this shocking scene, a knight muttered to himself. It's not wrong to say that it's a miracle. Nord looked at the figure standing on the trunk of the giant tree with fanatical eyes, because this is the masterpiece of Shimizu Garashi-sama. Shimizu Garashi-sama? Hyde's eyes widened. The god of ninja you mentioned before? That's right, so of course this is a miracle. Nord shouted excitedly. I didn't expect there to be such a terrifying person in this world. No, it should be such a terrifying god. Thinking about how he had fantasized about conquering the world after obtaining the power of the Grail mineral vein, Hyde couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. In San Crypsis's camp, Raza exhaled heavily and sighed. No matter how many times I see it, the power that is comparable to the gods is still so shocking. Pakura's eyes were gentle. You saved me again, Garashi. Han swallowed his saliva with difficulty before letting out a sigh. I really should pull those old fogies out of the village to take a look. This world should be more peaceful. Huoguang nodded like a chick pecking rice. That's right. It's better to be peaceful. Everyone looked at the stalwart figure in the center with gratitude and worship. Under their admiring gazes, Garashi jumped down from the tree trunk. Long time no see, Scorpion. Scorpion looked around calmly. You can even do such a thing. As expected of you, Shimizu Garashi. Shushi smiled. You need to grow up a little. Scorpion's facial muscles twitched. You call this growth? Scorpion shook his head. Forget it. I don't have much time to waste on talking. It seems that you intend to struggle a little longer? While the chakra tide in my body hasn't passed yet, of course I want to challenge you again. I'm not willing to lose my art if no one appreciates it. After that, the puppets that had been standing quietly all rioted and rushed toward the giant tree in the center. Various escape techniques intertwined into a powerful energy storm, among which the majority were fire. Obviously, Scorpion knew the gap between him and his opponent. His only chance of survival was to destroy the giant tree that supported the ruins. Even if Shimizu Garashi had the strength to use would release again, he could take advantage of this opportunity to escape. In this regard, Garashi just made a hand seal. Rise. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, a pair of eyes appeared under the crown of the giant tree. The thickest branch turned into an arm and 2 legs came out of the ground. It turned into a giant. What is this? Even Scorpion, who claimed to have lost his emotions, screamed when he saw this strange scene. The giant waved his hand and the storm gathered by the escape techniques was directly dispersed. Even the fire was quickly extinguished after burning on the branches for a while. This giant still retains the characteristic of absorbing chakra with wood release? Scorpion was quite troubled. This is different from nether release. Nether release absorbs chakra to make ninjutsu ineffective, but it can't use the absorbed chakra. At most, it can release the absorbed ninjutsu in the same way. Wood release can't make ninjutsu ineffective, but the absorbed chakra can be used. Coupled with the strong vitality of wood release itself, the absorbed chakra can easily restore the damaged part. Unless I use a super ninjutsu that exceeds the absorption limit of the giant in an instant. Looking at the huge size of the tree giant, Scorpion shook his head silently. With the size of this giant tree, it's impossible for him to reach the upper limit of chakra. That's the only way. Scorpion thought for a moment and controlled the puppet to attack the giant's ankle. As long as the giant's lower body is unstable, the rock layer will naturally fall. However, the more beautiful the idea is, the more cruel the reality is. With just a stomp of the giant's foot, more than a dozen puppets that were relatively close to it were crushed. How is this possible? Scorpion could hardly believe his eyes. His puppets were stronger than steel. How could the wood material crush the puppets? Unless, the feet of the giant are the hardest part. The result was as he guessed. The ninjutsu that could cause damage to the branches didn't even leave a burn mark on the roots. The puppet's attack was ineffective, but the giant didn't stop because of this. Every time he stepped, several puppets would be crushed. Not only that, the giant also stretched out hundreds of vines from his body, like arms, carrying the huge rocks on the tree crown, and then throwing the rocks like meteorites. In just a few seconds, Scorpion's puppets suffered huge losses. If it weren't for the resistance of Sandaime Kazekage, the loss would only be greater. Seeing this scene, Scorpion's heart was very heavy. He knew that he was most likely not the opponent of Shimizu Garashi, but he didn't expect that the other side didn't do anything at all. Just transforming a giant made him helpless. Chapter 353. Seeing Sasori being chased by the giant, Raza's face couldn't help but show a happy smile. The biggest stain of Sand Crypsis can finally be removed. But after the joy, he couldn't help but put himself in the giant's shoes. Can I beat this giant? After a moment of contemplation, Raza couldn't help but come to a sad conclusion. His Kazekage may not be comparable to a giant transformed by Garashi. Hokuto was also shocked and couldn't help but think. After going back, should I suggest Tsuchikage-sama to cut down all the trees in the village? Otherwise, Chinshui Shushi would be able to pull up an army of Traiants. But thinking about it, he laughed. I'm really an idiot. If Shimizu Garashi wants to destroy Rock Crypsis, why would it be so troublesome? Sure enough, Han is right, this world needs peace. Seeing Garashi standing quietly and watching the show, Sasori, who was forced to escape, was angry. This bastard can obviously defeat me quickly, but he wants to see me make a fool of myself. Damn it. There should be a limit to looking down on people. Thinking of this, Sasori stopped running. It's rare for so many people to watch my end, then I'll use my end to give you a grand fireworks show. As his voice fell, Sasori's body and the remaining hundreds of intact puppets exuded an incomparably terrifying aura. Their bodies continued to expand as if they were about to explode in the next moment. However, Garashi's movements were faster than him. Immortal technique, ice release, world of ice and snow. The ice spread extremely fast, and almost in the blink of an eye, the entire cave became a world of ice and snow. Not good, this guy wants to explode. Raza stared, and before he finished a word, he found that Sasori and the other puppets had been frozen. His ice release has really become stronger. Han shuddered and said to himself, if the ice release 3 years ago was so powerful, we couldn't escape at all. Just as the others were stunned at the frozen world, Garashi suddenly manipulated the ice to condense into an icicle and stabbed a shadow in the corner at a very fast speed. What's the matter? What happened? Why did Garashi-sama suddenly? Who is that? Everyone looked at the corner in surprise and saw a strange person wearing a Grim Reaper's mask as if he was weightless. He stepped lightly on the intersecting icicles. That was dangerous, I almost died. Aizen pretended to exclaim. If I really wanted to kill you, I would have pierced your vitals with these icicles. Even if it was a one-man show, Garashi did not reveal any abnormalities. Instead, he said with a solemn expression. Capture him alive? Aizen suddenly understood. So you've already noticed my existence. You didn't attack because you wanted to determine my location. As he spoke, he laughed again. However, I'm a little curious. How did you determine that I'm your enemy? What if I'm just an innocent passerby? My talent is average, but my perception is stronger than ordinary people, Garashi said in a deep voice. I can smell that disgusting aura on your body that I haven't felt for a long time. Raza's attention was originally on the mysterious masked man, but when he heard Garashi's explanation, the corner of his mouth almost twitched. Your talent is average? Then what am I? An imbecile? Han touched his nose and laughed against his will. Ah, Garashi-san is so modest. So you were implicated, what bad luck. Aizen sighed, but the ice that sealed Scorpion suddenly exploded. I wasn't killed or sealed. Scorpion was surprised that he could break out of the ice, but then he noticed that the atmosphere around him was a little strange. He casually glanced around and his eyes quickly fell on Aizen, who was standing on the icicles. This guy. Scorpion's eyes flickered. He clearly remembered that there was no such person before he was sealed in ice. Moreover, looking at the icicles under his feet, was he attacked by Shimizu Garashi? Being able to survive after being attacked by Shimizu Garashi meant that this person was not simple. Seeing Scorpion looking at him, Aizen smiled and waved his hand. "You're not dead, you should thank me." Scorpion frowned. "What did you say?" At this time, Garashi spoke. "Well, if you want to talk, go to prison, or hell. Please wait a moment." Aizen's gentle voice came from under the mask. "Can I buy my life in Scorpion's?" Scorpion was even more confused. Did he know this guy? "Buy your life?" Garashi asked. "What do you want to buy it with?" Aizen smiled faintly. "Let's use the lives of 724 people here, excluding the few of you who are more powerful than us." Han couldn't help but mock. "Their lives? Since when can you control other people's lives? Don't tell me you use genjutsu to control them?" "Huh. You guessed it." Hearing the other party's admission, Han wanted to mock him, but at this moment, the masked man's words were repeated by the people around him and in the distance. Hearing this, Han felt his blood run cold for a moment. This guy actually managed to control so many people with illusions without making a sound. Just when did it happen? He didn't notice it at all. Raza was shocked. Where did such a powerful genjutsu ninja come from? Why didn't he know about such a person before? The shinobi world seems to be much deeper than he thought. Scorpion couldn't help but look at this guy. This guy's genjutsu is really terrifying. At least, he has never heard of anyone who can control so many people silently. Garashi said in a low voice. "This method is really bad." "I'm sorry." Aizen sighed. "After all, the god of shinobi is here, I have to leave a way out for myself. How about it? Exchanging so many people's lives for the two of us, this is a good deal." Garashi was silent for a moment. "How can you guarantee that you will break the genjutsu after I release you?" "It's very simple." Aizen snapped his fingers. The originally quiet cave suddenly became lively. "Huh? What happened to me? Strange, why do I feel like I suddenly fell asleep?" He actually broke the genjutsu directly. Raza and Han looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The fact that the masked man can break the genjutsu so easily means that he doesn't care about them. In other words, the masked man probably didn't arrange the genjutsu in advance as they thought, but he used it to control them in an instant. If they want to break the bridge, the masked man can control them again at any time. Seeing their fear, Aizen smiled. "You should know that genjutsu has a limited range. As long as I leave here, I can no longer control them. So, letting us leave is a good choice for both sides." Chapter 354. Raza and Han were silent. They knew that the masked man's genjutsu was limited in range. To be precise, the masked man couldn't use genjutsu from thousands of meters away. As long as the masked man left, there would be no second control. But if the masked man was already controlled, then there would be no distance limit. Perhaps the village was already infiltrated. Therefore, the masked man might be more dangerous than Sasori. Sensing their fear, Aizen sighed helplessly. "I know what you're thinking, but don't worry. I don't have time to control your people. My genjutsu isn't that sophisticated. If you pay attention, you'll notice that they're under genjutsu." Raza and Han were startled, but after thinking about it, their expressions relaxed. Indeed, they were frightened by the masked man's large-scale genjutsu. But thinking about it carefully, the flaws of the masked man's genjutsu weren't small. As long as they paid attention, they would notice the problem. Yes, no genjutsu is perfect. Since his genjutsu has such a large range and strong concealment, it's understandable that his genjutsu isn't sophisticated enough. Thinking of this, the two looked at each other with a soft gaze. Aizen spread out his hands. "So, this is just my last resort. Then I." Raza was startled, but then he remembered that he didn't have the right to make the decision. He couldn't help but awkwardly look to the side. "Garashi, what do you think?" Garashi's expression was solemn. "I really can't take care of everyone's lives. I'm sorry about Sasori." "Don't worry about it. I'm the one who troubled you." Raza shook his head and then looked at Sasori. "I can let you go, but Sandame-sama's body must stay." Although it was a pity, he was lucky enough to leave alive this time. Naturally, Sasori could see the situation clearly, so he decisively took back the chakra thread wrapped around the Kazekage puppet. "Here you go." Han reminded, "There's also the Book of Grayer." Even the third wind shadow puppet had been handed over. Naturally, Scorpion didn't care about this. He directly took out the Book of Grayer and threw it to the other side. Aizen smiled. Can we leave now? Garashi caught the Book of Grayer. You guys can go. After they left, Raza whispered, Who the hell is this guy? I've never heard of such a powerful figure before. Han said in a deep voice, Moreover, his action of saving Sasori of the red sand is very suspicious. No matter how I look at it, Sasori doesn't seem to know him. We'll talk about this when we get back, Garashi said. Let's leave now. Raza was shocked. If you leave now, don't you plan to continue looking for the Stone of Grayer vein? There is no such thing as the Grayer lode. Garashi shook his head slightly, then looked around at everyone and raised his voice. I've already searched. There are no mineral veins in this ruin. Hearing Garashi's voice, the crowd couldn't help but discuss in whispers. What? No or veins? Could it be that the mine has been emptied, and what we found is actually the part left behind by the ancient people? No one suspected that Garashi was trying to trick them and take the ores for himself. On the one hand, with Garashi's strength, he doesn't need to care about their feelings at all. On the other hand, Garashi is recognized as a person with perfect moral character in the ninja world. Of course, such a person wouldn't lie to them. Not to mention, if Garashi wanted to take the ores for himself, he wouldn't have saved them before. In short, I won't stop everyone from continuing to stay and explore the ruins, but this place is reaching its limit, and I can't guarantee how long it can last. Hearing Garashi's words, everyone felt a little regretful. Alas, we only got 2 ores this time. Be content, I only got 1. Indeed, we should be content. If it weren't for Garashi-sama, we would be dead now. In these regretful voices, Hien breathed a sigh of relief. It turns out that the veins of this ruin have been emptied. No wonder the ancestors didn't record it. This is good, we can finally go back with peace of mind. However, he didn't notice that a pair of eyes was staring at him. Outside. After leaving the ruin, Sasori asked calmly, Tell me, what is your purpose in saving me? Aizen didn't deny his motives, he just smiled slightly and said, This isn't the place to talk. Sasori looked at him deeply, then walked in the direction he came from. Come with me. After a while, the two arrived at a base under the desert. There were many people in the base, and after seeing Sasori, they immediately stood up and greeted him. As for the masked person behind Sasori, they completely ignored him. Such a big base, it's really hard for you to not be discovered by the Sand Crypsis. Aizen looked around and praised. I used the hidden mind technique on them so they naturally won't betray me. Sasori stopped and said, Can you tell me now? In short, I am here to invite you to join an organization called Akatsuki. Aizen said. Not interested, you can go. Sasori calmly refused. So decisive? I don't need a companion. Aizen sighed. You will make me feel troubled. Sasori said indifferently. Troubled? Don't think that you can order me around just because you saved me. Of course I don't think so after all. Aizen smiled. I am the one who caused you to become like this. What did you say? Sasori's voice suddenly became cold. Don't you know? Aizen leaned lazily against the wall and laughed softly. That ruin is actually fake. What? Fake? With Sasori's IQ, he quickly thought of the answer. You mean that ruin was deliberately fake to lure me out? Although it's not the whole reason, you can say that. You bastard. Although Scorpion was angry and humiliated, he was more shocked than angry. In order to find him, this guy played with the entire ninja world. Wait, those people who happened to fall into the ruin? Of course, it was also my arrangement. Sasori's heart twitched. This guy is really terrifying. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Sasori's voice was extremely cold. Your genjutsu is powerful, but it has no effect on me. Really? I don't believe it. I have transformed myself into a puppet. Sasori touched his chest indifferently. This place has become something that can only move according to orders. No matter how strong your genjutsu is, can it work on a stone? I think it's worth a try. Chapter 355. Try it. Sasori sneered. If an illusionist thinks he can use illusions on puppets, then he's not far from death. Aizen's voice was gentle. But you're not a real puppet. You still have a human part. Is that so? Why don't you give it a try? As soon as he finished speaking, Sasori found that the scene around him changed. The base in front of him suddenly turned into a familiar scene in his memory, his former home. Is this an illusion? While Sasori was surprised, the door suddenly opened. A vague figure stood at the door. "This is Mom?" Seeing him stunned, the figure took his hand. "Child, why are you standing outside like a fool? Come in." Sasori did not resist and was obediently pulled into the room. "You're covered in snow. If your father sees you, he'll scold you again." Scorpion stood at the entrance at a loss, allowing his mother to pat the snowflakes on his body and murmured, "Dad?" Sasori was led into the living room. A serious-looking man was sitting at the dining table reading a newspaper. Seeing Sasori come in, the man coughed. "Sasori, how are you doing in school?" Sasori was silent. "You child." Sasori's father shook his head. "If your grades don't meet the requirements, our agreement to go out and play together will be void." "Go out and play together? Have you forgotten?" His mother gently stroked Sasori's head. "If you enter the top 10 in the final exam, our family will go to the amusement park together for the whole day." Family, don't push the child too hard." Chio came out of the kitchen with food and said with dissatisfaction, "Sasori is already studying very hard." "Grandma, hey." Chio put down the food and said with a smile, "Don't listen to your father. Even if you don't do well in the final exam, Grandma will take you there." The man helplessly said, "Mom, don't spoil the child." Chio glared, "I love my grandson. Why do I need you to interrupt?" The man did not know whether to laugh or cry, "But Sasori is also my son." "You're also my son." Seeing that the two were about to quarrel, Sasori's mother hurried to mediate. Seeing this warm scene, Sasori's stiff face showed a slight smile for the first time. This doesn't seem too bad. However, at this moment he realized that he was getting further and further away from the three of them. It was as if space had been stretched infinitely, and he could not catch up no matter how hard he tried. In the end, everything in front of him vanished like a bubble. When he returned to reality, he heard that annoying voice. "Looks like you've found some humanity." Scorpion was silent for a moment. His pupils, which had always been calm, burned with a rare anger. "Damn bastard, you really pissed me off." Aizen smiled. "Don't get excited, maybe you?" Before he could finish his words, Scorpion summoned all of his remaining puppets. "Can you listen to me first?" Scorpion's eyes were cold as he controlled the puppets to launch an attack. Although he had lost his main battle puppet, he could still be considered a top-notch expert with his ability to manipulate hundreds of machines. "Alright, looks like we can only talk after the fight." Aizen sighed and shook his hand. A sword fell from his sleeve and he held it in his right hand. Seeing the other party suddenly take out a weapon, Scorpion was slightly surprised, but he didn't care. Although swords weren't the mainstream weapons of ninjas, there were still some, such as Raitun and Kusanagi. However, the next battle made him unable to understand. Aizen didn't use any ninjutsu, he just walked among the puppets, occasionally stabbing them with his sword and instantly turning them into a pile of waste. Not only genjutsu but even taijutsu is so strong. Scorpion was shocked as he rushed forward. Apart from the third wind shadow puppet, his main body was the second most powerful puppet. Puppet Jutsu, Thousand Hands Technique. Scorpion's right wrist and arm were cut off, and in an instant, thousands of folded arms appeared. These arms not only spewed poisonous gas, but even their fingertips were also contaminated with poison. Poison? What an underhanded method. Aizen slashed forward, and the air waves easily dispersed the poisonous gas. The slash collided with the mechanical arms and cut them off like a hot knife through butter. He's using pure physical strength. Scorpion's pupils shrank. He had never met such an opponent before. This is troublesome. When I made the puppets, I considered thunder and fire elemental attacks. As for physical attacks, I only considered the hardness of the materials. After thinking for a while, Scorpion controlled the other puppets to shoot poisonous needles. Every single one of his puppets was loaded with a large number of 1,000 books. All the puppets shot out at the same time like a violent storm. Even Aizen was forced to dodge. Scorpion's body took 2 spiral swords from his back and rushed forward while Scorpion was dodging the needles. Double swords, spiral circle slash. Aizen only took a glance to understand Scorpion's plan. Relying on the fact that he's not afraid of the needles, he's using his body to restrain me? Aizen pondered for a moment and laughed. Since I need his wisdom, I'll show him some strength. Thinking of this, Aizen didn't try to dodge the needles. He rushed towards Scorpio. What does this guy want to do? Could it be that he wants to defeat me quickly and get the antidote from me? Scorpion thought to himself as he rushed towards his opponent. The situation was in his favor. If he didn't dare to rush, then what was the point of fighting? When the two of them met, a sky full of poisonous needles flew over. It's over. Scorpion muttered and his eyes widened. Under his incredulous gaze, the poisonous needles suddenly turned and flew away when they were about to reach the other party. Aizen took advantage of Sasori's distraction to send him flying with a heavy slash. Scorpion ignored his injuries and couldn't help but ask, "What happened just now?" Aizen chuckled. "Simply put, I used genjutsu to deceive the world. Even the 3 Tomo Sharingan could use Izanagi's genjutsu to transform between reality and illusion. He could do the same with his current body. Moreover, he had been studying the Kurama clan's genjutsu for a long time. Of course, he couldn't do something as exaggerated as reviving on the spot. At most, he could affect reality a little. But this was already powerful enough. After all, he didn't need to sacrifice his eyes. Deceive the world? Deceive the world? Scorpion kept repeating this sentence and then asked nervously, "Can the boundary between life and death be deceived?" Looking at Sasori's eager eyes, Aizen smiled and said, "I wanted to talk to you about this, but you had to take a beating before you were willing to listen to me. You can't blame me for this." Chapter 356. The corner of Sasori's eyes twitched. After a moment of silence, Sasori got up from the ground and asked calmly, "What do you need me to do?" "Don't worry, you're just a figurehead in the organization. If you need materials, you can ask the organization for help. In the end, you just need to give the organization a copy of your research results." Sasori couldn't believe it. "You went through so much trouble to find me just to let me study puppets?" Aizen smiled. "It's not that much trouble. Besides, it took a little effort to arrange the ruins. Everything else is okay, and it's not like I didn't gain anything." "Gain something?" Sasori suddenly remembered. This guy did say that this wasn't the only reason for him to come here. "That's it." Aizen took out a piece of gray stone and gently tossed it. "In the future, I'll have to trouble you to find a better way to use this stone." He had already planned to give the biotechnology to Orochimaru, and the mechanical and energy technology to Sasori. Of course, the direction of their research could be interchanged. Just like how Orochimaru developed the robot Naruto in the manga, Sasori developed a small piece of flesh as a regenerative core. "Gray stone. Did you find the vein?" Sasori shook his head. "No, you said that the ruins were fake. Although it's possible that you found the ore somewhere else, you also said that it's a gain from the ruins. So, you used the ruins to lure out the real person who knows about the gray stone vein?" As expected of Sasori, you guessed the answer so quickly. Seeing Aizen admit it so quickly, Sasori couldn't help but increase the danger level in his heart. Not only was he strong, but his methods were also strange. More importantly, his casual but interlocking calculations were really terrifying. Thinking of this, Sasori asked curiously, "Who else is in your organization?" Aizen smiled and shrugged. "My organization? Don't misunderstand, I'm a member of the organization like you." "What?" Sasori couldn't help but exclaim, "A person like you is willing to be someone else's subordinate?" After the shock, Sasori asked in a deep voice, "Or, is this another one of your schemes?" Aizen narrowed his eyes. "It's not a good habit to guess randomly." Scorpion took a deep breath. "I understand." Aizen continued, "In fact, there are many interesting people in our organization. For example, those who can use Mokutan, those who have Rinnegan." "What did you say? Would release? Rinnegan?" Even with Sasori's temperament, he couldn't help being shocked again. As Shimizu Garashi's trademark, Mokutan has become a synonym for power, not to mention Rinnegan, the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths that only existed in legends. "Do you think our organization is a little interesting? Speaking of which, I only joined a few days earlier than you did." Scorpion was silent. He felt more and more that the purpose of the other party joining the organization was not simple. "Putting these in front of me, are you trying to hint to me that this organization is only a facade that I joined, and that the one I should really follow is his orders?" Although it was only his personal guess, he still felt that this terrifying man was not the kind of person who would submit to others. After pondering for a moment, Scorpion discarded all distracting thoughts. "Why am I thinking so much? Anyway, I have nothing to do with the other people in the organization. I'll just do as he says." Compared to the Rinnegan, he felt the horror of the masked man in front of him. Moreover, he was counting on the other party to help him deceive the world. At the bottom of a canyon, Hien was jumping between the rugged valleys. "Although I didn't manage to stop the disaster caused by the Stone of Grail as I imagined, it's still good news that there are no mineral veins. Plus, I've witnessed such a powerful force. Thinking of what he had seen before, the power that was comparable to that of a god, Yen couldn't help but wonder, with such a god in the world, is it really possible that the power of the Stone of Grail will destroy the world? At this moment there was a sudden sound behind him. Yen subconsciously dodged, but he was still hit on the shoulder and rolled down. Yen fell to the ground and stood up. "It's you?" It was the group who had the Book of Grail that attacked him. Hyde pushed up his glasses. "Old man, you've caused us so much trouble in the past." Yen was silent. "But it doesn't matter. Thank you for helping us find the Grail or vein." Hyde opened his arms and laughed loudly. "I will soon have the power to conquer the world." It seemed that Yen couldn't stand his arrogance. Yen couldn't help but mock him. "It's too early for you to be happy. The Grail or vein is not here at all." Unexpectedly, Hyde was not angry but happy. "Ha, you really know the location of the Grail or vein?" Yen was stunned. "You don't know that I am?" Hyde laughed. "I wasn't sure before, but now I know. You are the descendant of the clan who stayed on this continent to guard the Orvain after the collapse of the ancient empire." Hyde said to himself. "When I got the Book of Grail, I learned from that clan that there is a clan guarding the Grail or vein on our continent. I didn't expect to meet them." Yen turned his head. "Give up. I won't tell you the location of the Orvain. It's too easy to deal with people like you who are stubborn." Hyde shrugged. "At that time your other clan said the same thing. But when I burned a few children in front of them, they quickly collapsed. Oh, what a weak will." Yen was so angry that he trembled. You demon." Hyde smiled indifferently. "In this canyon there should be people of your clan, right? You, haha, are you too scared to speak?" Yen was really scared. In his eyes, the group led by Hyde was twisted like a piece of paper, but they were still at a loss. Finally, they were erased from this world. Although he was happy, Yen was still shocked by this method. "What the hell is this?" The next moment his eyes lost their light. The man wearing the Grim Reaper mask came out of the shadows and put his right hand on Yen's forehead. "The location of the Grail or vein. I finally know." Aizen's eyes were bright. As for killing the group of knights, it was completely convenient. It was the price for erasing their memories. After a while, Yen got up from the ground in a daze. "Ouch, it hurts." Covering his shoulder, Yen said to himself. "Yes, I accidentally fell down and hurt my shoulder. I'm really old. I can't even walk so many times and still fall down. I should hurry back. The children should be worried about me." While he was talking to himself, Aizen had already arrived at the real underground ruins. According to Yen's memories, he quickly found the place called the Sealed Space. Behind the sealed space was the Grail or vein. "This is the Grail or vein?" Feeling the powerful energy contained in the Orvain, Aizen's eyes were burning. In the memory of his previous life, this Orvain only leaked a very small amount of energy, but it healed the pain and revitalized everything. This was the ability he looked forward to the most. Whether it was pure physical strength or the Hashiman Tanku, the consumption of vitality and accumulation of internal injuries were inevitable. "From now on, I will let the main body cultivate next to this Orvain." Chapter 357. A few days later, the big event that happened in the underground ruins finally fermented and spread throughout the ninja world at an extremely fast speed. First of all, the Sand Crypsis betrayed Sasori and killed the third Kazekage and turned him into a puppet. Although the Sand Crypsis claimed that it was Sasori who attacked the third Kazekage, but even so, it was already powerful enough, not to mention that he also showed the ultimate technique of the puppet master, and even fought against the Kazekage and the Gobi's Jinchuriki by himself. In the opinion of most people, Sasori is definitely at the level of the Kage of the 5 great villages. Another big event was naturally Shimizu Garashi's appearance in the ruins and forcibly stopped the collapse of hundreds of meters underground. That kind of movement was no less than the impact of a meteorite falling. Especially after that, he defeated Sasori, who was able to suppress the 2 great villages by himself with just a giant, which made people's blood boil. Those who just entered the ninja world worship Shimizu Garashi as an object of worship, and often fantasize about the scene of him settling the war with his own strength and saving everyone. On the contrary, because the Stone of Grail itself was not mined much, except for a few exclamations, there were not many people who really cared about it. As for the mysterious masked man who appeared at the end, there was not much information circulating in the entire ninja world. On the one hand, most people didn't know that they were in the genjutsu, so they didn't know much about what happened. On the other hand, this matter was not a glorious thing for the two great villages, and they didn't want Yunnan to be vigilant, so naturally, they didn't take the initiative to spread what happened at that time. However, in the files of Sand Crypsis and Rock Crypsis, there was still a very high level of top-secret information about the masked man. Through the genjutsu, Sasori entered the genjutsu. Compared to the last gathering, there were 3 more figures, and it was much more lively than before. In addition to me and him, there are 7 people? After entering the genjutsu, Sasori calmly looked around. Soon, he noticed one of the people with ripples in his eyes. Is this the Rinnegan? He wasn't the only one. Kakuzu and Raiga were also attracted by Nagato's eyes. They were all ninjas, so of course they would be interested in the eyes of the legendary ninja ancestor. Of course, what was equally surprising was the magical gathering method. With this technique, not only could they communicate across space anytime, anywhere, but they could also ensure the safety and concealment of the organization. At the very least, they would not have to worry about traitors joining and destroying the organization. Yahiko coughed twice and cleared his throat. Our organization has finally grown a lot stronger. 3 rookies, please introduce yourselves to prevent any conflicts in the future. I'll go first. Rhea glanced around and said eagerly, my name is Rhea. I used to be one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, but now I'm Kirin's traitor. In terms of strength, I'm good at swordsmanship and Raitan. There was some pride in his words. After all, the 7 ninja swordsmen were considered big figures in the ninja world. Joining a small organization should be very impressive, right? Moreover, when the 2 strange guys invited him to join, they specifically said that he would be a combat member in the organization. Didn't this prove that his strength was one of the best in the organization? However, except for one person who looked at him with slight surprise, the others were very calm. This discovery made Black Rhea even more depressed. They shouldn't be reacting like this. Then one of the people in the middle said concisely, Takajin's traitor, Kakuzu hobby is money no more. It's him. Rhea noticed that the other person was the one who looked at him just now. I heard that he was also beaten by Shimizu Garashi. He sighed in his heart and finally understood why Kakuzu looked at him with that kind of eyes. It turned out that it was the eyes of a patient who was in the same situation. However, this guy doesn't seem to be weak. Finally, Sasori calmly introduced himself. Sasori, puppeteer, hobby is to make puppets. After listening to Sasori's introduction, Rhea couldn't help but ask, Sasori? The one who was in the limelight in the ruins a few days ago? Sasori looked at him coldly. Being played by others is considered to be in the limelight? Rhea had a very experienced look. Oh, being played by Shimizu Garashi isn't shameful. Kakuzu also said coldly, indeed it's not shameful. Rhea nodded. The first time I assassinated him I successfully escaped, but the second time I didn't even have the courage to fight. I don't even have the idea. Kakuzu's eyes were cold. Even when I fought with Hashirama, I didn't lose so badly. Sasori's mouth twitched slightly. What's going on with this organization? How did it suddenly become a meeting between patients? If he didn't talk about his condition, wouldn't he be too unsociable? Then Rhea asked, by the way, I heard that you were saved by someone. Is the person who saved you also a member of the organization? Aizen smiled gently, it's me. This guy not only escaped from Shimizu Garashi, but he also saved Sasori. Kakuzu's pupils suddenly shrank. As someone who was killed by Shimizu Garashi, he believed that he had a lot of say in this regard. At this time, Bordered Soil suddenly spoke. The newcomer is really powerful. He actually saved Sasori from that man. But isn't this exposing the organization to the public? Yahiko frowned and was about to speak when he heard Aizen sigh. It's really bad because I didn't expect him to be able to detect my presence. He even said that he smelled something disgusting on my body, something that he hasn't seen for a long time, but it's not good. It's really strange, I haven't seen him for a long time. This should be the first time I met him. Bordered Soil's group was surprised by Aizen's words. After all, they had contact with Shimizu Garashi before. Uncle, did he really say that? Although not many people cared at the time, there should be a lot of people who heard it. Yahiko's group couldn't help but doubt themselves. Disgusting? Was he talking about us? It shouldn't be, right? Bordered Soil was also secretly puzzled. My former identity shouldn't make Senpai hate me. Did he notice my fight with Minato? The most panicked of the 5 was Black Zetsu. What's the situation? That bastard found me again? Because he had been monitoring Yahiko's group and Bordered Soil, He knew that Shimizu Garashi didn't mean them, but him, Black Setsu. When he manipulated the magic leech to add fuel to the fire, Shimizu Garashi noticed him and exposed him. Because of this, he deliberately avoided direct contact with Clearwater Shushi. But who would have thought that Aizen would be able to detect his presence through his contact with him? How could he play this game? His first identity as an ordinary member of the Akatsuki was exposed, but the problem was that he might even lose his second identity as Uchiha Madara's consciousness. After all, when he stirred up trouble in Hojo, his identity as Madara's consciousness wasn't born yet. Thinking of this, Black Setsu couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. What should I do if my identity is exposed? You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.